Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku became the ultimate hero. If you guys enjoy this movie, comment down below and let me know. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content. And leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. So let's start the video. Midoriya Izuku dreams of becoming a hero like any other child growing up in this want to help people and be like All Might. He is a good-hearted, kind-hearted child who likes to help others. He is also smart and determined, no less than anyone else. It can be said that he had the qualities of a hero from a young age. However, with just these qualities, it was not enough to be a hero. But there must also be something called a quirk. It is the special power of each person that makes humans do amazing things. Alas, even though Izuku had already reached the age of 5, his quirk still hasn't been revealed. That was a terrible thing in a society full of mages. Izuku is therefore the target of other children's bullying and pitiful glances from the elders. Well, we'll have to wait and see, the doctor muttered as he looked at Izuku's test results and body scan. Is something wrong, doctor? 𝐭𝐽 asked as she hugged her little son. Well, what should I say? The doctor replied hesitantly. This may be a rare case. What do you mean? 𝐭𝐽 was concerned by the doctor's reaction. From the indications, Izuku-kun definitely has a personality. Because there is only one bone in his little finger, the doctor began to explain. But from the last test by Dr. Tsubasa and today's repeat test, he is unlikely to have the quirk of his father and mother, because he does not have the means to produce fire in his mouth or lungs or attract objects. So it must be something else. But he's already 5 years old. I heard that it's past the age for quirk to be expressed, 𝐭𝐽 asked the doctor. It's not always the case. That's why I said it was a rare case. In addition to acting slowly and also mutating, I ask that you follow him closely. If there is anything abnormal, hurry and see a specialist immediately, the doctor advised, before adding, and from what Izuku-kun said, he felt something within himself. I can only say that he has every chance to show his strength. 𝐭𝐽 thanked her as she bowed to the doctor and left with her son. Several days later, meanwhile, 𝐭𝐽 was in the kitchen and left Izuku with a TV show about superheroes. As the show progresses, a 5-year-old boy ponders his own quirk. He knew there was something in his body, but I don't know how to use it. I didn't even know what it was because the X-ray machine couldn't detect it. As the child waved the All Might figure in his hand, programs on TV cut into commercials. New All Might figures will be on sale soon. And she said the little child wanted to have it. Izuku imagined the All Might figure on TV, the shape, the colors, the pattern, and the material, and thought it was waving in his hand. I want. Suddenly, the little boy felt an unbearable pain in his free hand, so much so that he had to release his other hand from the All Might figure to grab said wrist. In the blink of an eye, a light flashed in his palm. And as soon as the light extinguished and the pain faded, an All Might figure appeared on his palm. Izuku knew immediately what was happening. It was what he had been waiting for all this time. Emerald green eyes twinkled with light as tears slowly overflowed from both eyes. His little lips began to tremble. Mother, stop it, Kakin. Izuku's voice trembled as he stood between the group of thugs and the target of their bullying. Why, Deku? What can you do with such a weak quirk? Move over if you don't want to get hurt. The mischievous boy said this as he walked over nonchalantly and displayed an explosion from his hand. I will never back down, Izuku shouted with a look of fear on his face. Good, then die. The mischievous kid from before smiled and raised his hand to prepare to fire a grenade. No, Izuku shouted, holding out a glowing hand towards the group of thugs in desperation. Many years later, after all, you all probably will all go on to the hero branch, right? The homeroom teacher exclaimed as he threw a pile of further study questionnaires into the air. The class erupted into cheers and expressions. But Izuku wasn't really interested in it. Everyone has a good quirk, all of them together, but don't use it in school. The teacher gave a suggestion. Hey, master, don't lump me with everyone else like that, the straw-haired boy interrupted in a cocky manner. I don't think that trashy quirks like yours are on the same level. Damnedy, Katsuki, how can you say that? Shut up, you extras, Katsuki shouted at the people in the room. His name is Bakugo Katsuki, or Quirk Bomb. By the way, Bakugo-kun will graduate from high school at UA. As soon as the teacher finished speaking, gossip broke out throughout the room. You must know that that is a school with a very low entrance rate. Every year, less than 1% of people pass the exam. It is normal for everyone in the room to be excited and shocked by this news, because they don't even think about going for the exam. As for the person being mentioned, he boasts of himself to the utmost. But his boasting was cut short when the teacher spoke up. Oh, Midoriya chose UA too. The entire room fell into silence. Izuku finally came to his senses and stopped looking out the window, only to turn around to see the entire class staring at him. Is there a problem? Izuku asked calmly. That's no problem, the teacher replied. You yourself have the same evaluation as Bakugo-kun. Aside from Bakugo, it has to be Midoriya. That's right, Izuku's quirk is awesome. You must pass the exam for sure. He can create anything that's fit for a hero. Thank you for your trust, Izuku said, rubbing his head at his classmate's comment. Shut up, Deku. Katsuki charged at Izuku's desk as an explosion of sparks erupted from his palm. What can a fake like you that is good at just imitating other people do? Izuku sat quietly. He took a moment to make sure the blonde had finished before answering. Do you want to know, Bakatsuki? He asked, tilting his head. Katsuki rushed forward and waved his hand to attack. But Izuku had already seen its course and had predicted the outcome, so he didn't panic. He couldn't swipe Katsuki's arm left or right, or his classmate would get hurt. But letting the study table be bombed early in the morning is also not good. So he activated his own quirk. Emerald green eyes glowed as he summoned a copy of something suitable to deal with this situation. A mass of water formed on the right palm of the owner of the green hair, before he slammed into Katsuki's explosive-ready palm. Without any sound. This is because the sweat, which is the explosive material, is diluted with water. The explosion did not occur. It's the best way to deal with hot-headed people with explosive hands. Don't use your quirk to attack others like this. Izuku groaned, pulling his hand back. Don't change the subject. How can an imitation like you stand on the same pedestal as me? And don't call me by a name like that. Katsuki yelled. Bakatsuki is the name used to call Katsuki. It doesn't have the same formal meaning as Kaken, but for Izuku, it would be something like Idiot Katsuki or Idiot Tsuki. You can still call me Deku. I think Baka suits you better. And it's a copycat, so what? As long as it works. That's enough, Izuku said. I don't care about things like that, Katsuki exclaimed as he opened his arms to fire a blast. Izuku tensed his hands as well, preparing to use his own power. Every eye in the room was focused on them. People who were sitting near the collision quickly got up and fled. That's enough, Bakugo. Midoriya, the teacher called out when he saw that the situation had gone too far. Just survive. Katsuki gave his opponent a disapproving look before turning and walking back to his seat. Izuku summoned his water-absorbing cloth and wiped the table in front of him, which was wet from the performance a moment ago. The others returned to their seats. Wow, it's you guys. Seeing that the situation had been resolved, the teacher resumed teaching. The last lesson ended with the sharp sound of the bell. Izuku then started packing up his things. But before he could get up, he saw Katsuki already nearby. We're not finished talking yet, Deku. Katsuki came to block the way, along with his friends, who had expressions of reluctance on their faces. What's wrong, Baka? Izuku stood up and asked. A top-notch hero. Most have cool stories. Ever since we were students, Katsuki started babbling. Because of that, I want to be known as the first and only from an ordinary school. It's like being obsessed with perfection. Do you understand? That's all. What a stupid reason, Izuku thought, rolling his eyes and looking up. Anyway, it's incomplete from your attitude. The emerald-eyed boy could think of 101 reasons why Katsuki's history was tarnished rather than perfect. But before Izuku could answer, the fang-haired, mischievous boy grabbed Izuku's shoulder with his left hand and began to radiate heat. He burned his school shirt until smoke came out. Listen to me, give up on the idea of going to UA, you're a fake one. Izuku was silent. Is that all? Izuku asked quietly before slapping Katsuki's hand off his shoulder and nonchalantly walking towards the exit. But before leaving the classroom, he said, let's talk nonsense. I will go to the USA anyway. Even if anyone comes and says anything, here you are. Katsuki prepared to pounce but was stopped when he saw Izuku making a familiar flexing motion with his hands. All right, Izuku said with a smile. Shit. Katsuki clicked his tongue in displeasure. Instead of constantly threatening others or boasting about yourself, why don't you go do something more heroic? Izuku suggested before walking away. With that kind of personality, Baka will commit suicide one day. I hope someone at UA teaches him how much of a frog he is in a shell. While walking home, Izuku was complaining and focused on his phone. He was touched by a liquid that moved as though he were alive. Or more precisely, a human being had a liquid body of some kind, which is the villain that is currently in the news. It broke out from the manhole cover and attacked, wanting to take over the young man's body. With an unstable and flexible body, it is difficult for anyone to break free. Damn, I can't breathe, the unfortunate boy thought, closing his mouth tightly to block the liquid that was trying to enter his body through his mouth. At the same time, consciousness began to fade from the lack of oxygen. No, I can't lose consciousness. And then, in times of crisis, a hero appeared just in time. Don't worry, young man. The same manhole cover that the villain had used to get onto the street flew into the sky as a giant man with a gun rose from the manhole. Because I came here. The mysterious giant pulled out his fist. Texas. The fist was pulled back to punch toward the villain. Smash. Whether it's because of the wind or the force of the punch, the liquid that was covering young Midoriya's body has completely disappeared. Oh, might, were Izuku's last words before his vision turned black. Izuku was woken up by a light slap from All Might. He grabbed the number one hero's hand to stop him from slapping his own face. At that moment, he accidentally activated his quirk, allowing him to sense All Might's physical information and also sense the mysterious energy beneath the man's skin. It was so shockingly overwhelming that he had to quickly let go. Is something wrong, young man? All Might asked, noticing the expression of the boy he had helped. Oh, it's nothing. Thank you for helping. And I'm sorry for accidentally using my quirk. Izuku quickly apologized. After all, using someone else's quirk without a license is wrong. If it's okay, that's fine. I have to hurry, excuse me. All Might walked out, not paying attention to Izuku's last sentence. He then crouched down and jumped, disappearing into the air. Wow, even though it was bad luck, I was lucky to meet All Might in person. Izuku suddenly stiffened as he realized what he had forgotten to do. Before shouting out, I forgot to ask for an autograph. Izuku's room, Midoriya's house, damn it, how could I forget? My life is over. People would definitely curse me if they found out I met All Might and didn't ask for an autograph. How will my children and grandchildren view me if they know that I missed out on the opportunity to acquire the family treasure? Mumbling, Izuku groaned at the loss of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and he didn't do anything about it. Crazy. Izuku turned on his computer in frustration. Today's homework requires finding information on the internet in order to work. But after getting halfway through, he stopped to stretch his legs. Taking his eyes off the sheet of paper, he saw the many All Might figures on display. An idea came into my head about All Might that wasn't about forgetting to ask for an autograph, but it's about him using his quirk to explore All Might. All Might is injured. Izuku's mouth slowly opened. He opened his eyes, and his eyes began to expand. No, that's impossible. Startled, Izuku stood up, causing his chair to fall with a loud thud. Is something wrong, Izuku? Mom has finished preparing the food. The sound from the other side of the door calmed Izuku down. Oh, nothing. I'll go out right away, Izuku replied, picked up his chair, and sat down to reflect on the shocking revelation. It's not a recent wound, but it must have happened a long time ago compared to the remaining traces. It must have been so severe that even after it was treated, a disgusting wound was still left, not including the missing internal organs. He gulped and got goosebumps at the thought of how a villain could inflict such a wound on the number one hero. After finishing his homework, he had to search the internet to find the fight he had missed. On the weekend, Izuku went to the forest where he used to play when he was a child with Katsuki and the others. It was a place of memories. It was a place where his and Katsuki's friendship deteriorated. Meanwhile, Katsuki refuses to enter this forest again. But not with Izuku. Ever since he learned of his own quirk's abilities, the forest has also been a great place to practice. Izuku knew he needed more practice than anyone else. Because his quirk was not a direct combat type, he was basically no different from a quirk-less person in terms of physicality. Therefore, the focus must be on movement. With the ability to retrieve a copy of an object, he can replicate any weapon and use it. With the right move, he can dodge attacks and use his weapon to end the fight. But it's still not enough. Some villains are resistant to sharp knives, bullets, or possess inhuman strength. Therefore, he had to be even stronger to deal with such a situation. And the only thing he lacks is a high level of physical ability. Seeing All Might's air-powered punches with his own eyes made him see the gap between ordinary people and superhuman. However, he had an idea about how to fix this shortcoming. Energy that we previously just used was transformed into objects and matter. As Izuku understood, his quirk works by taking the form of energy his body produces and storing it to pay for replicas, which he has done just that over the years, until I met All Might. So he thought of a new way to use the energy he had. Theorizing about All Might's strength coming from the energy compressed and flowing within his body, Izuku will try to do the same today. By distributing the accumulated energy throughout your own body, it should also greatly increase his physical abilities, including strength, durability, agility, and speed. Even though the energy he had was nothing compared to All Might's, he didn't need to be that strong. Imagine yourself being like a water pipe. And energy is like water. We have to control the water pressure just right. Not too much so that the pipe breaks. At the same time, Izuku's body glowed. Red patterns flowed across various parts of his body. Let it flow evenly throughout my body. Now the red pattern has disappeared. However, there were bright green lightning bolts that constantly appeared and disappeared around his body. Geez, Izuku felt his strength increase greatly. It was as if he could do anything right now. Succeed. The boy clenched his fists and shouted happily. Fainted. And in the blink of an eye, the strength Izuku had felt disappeared. It seems like one must concentrate on it in order to maintain this state. Izuku immediately began to radiate new energy. There was no problem entering the previous state. This time, try to move. Izuku was about to try it out. But as soon as it started, he rushed forward until he almost crashed into a tree. It seems like you have to control your exertion well. The green-haired boy sighed. There's still a long way to go, and he hopes to control it within 10 months. 10 months later, UA entrance exam day. The train ride to UA station was chaotic, with so many people heading in the same direction. Izuku meditated while standing to calm his nervous mind. He was going to take the entrance exam for one of the best schools in Japan, where All Might had studied, so it would be normal for him to be nervous. When getting off the train station, Izuku then saw the UA school on the hill. The enormous building stood tall and shimmered in the sunlight. It rises gracefully above the surrounding area. Students in different uniforms all walked toward the main door. Some waved at each other, talked, or walked inside alone or with friends. Izuku watched with mixed thoughts. Unfortunately, in the entire Andhra school, only he and Katsuki came to take the exam. Even though he encouraged and invited friends to take the exam, no one came. The green-haired boy sighed before walking with the students to enter the UA school. While walking along the walkway, Izuku saw a person who could only be recognized from behind. He was tall and had straw-colored hair that stood up like a hedgehog. Akatsuki. Izuku chose not to greet him because he knew that would happen, and he didn't want to be upset early in the morning. So he slowed down his walking speed and hoped that he would not take the exam in the same class. While walking without being careful, he stumbled onto something and nearly fell on his face on the ground. If it weren't for the help of a stranger that prevented him from falling under the force of gravity before helping him stand up. Sorry for using your quirk. It looks like you need help. Failing before an exam is a bad omen. The brown-haired girl who helped said this. Thank you, Izuku said. Good luck on the exam. The girl waved at him and walked away. As well, Izuku said, waiting for a while after he finished speaking, before starting to walk. 3 hours had passed. Izuku then came out of the exam room. The exam is not as difficult as you think, at least for him. As for the other people, I don't know. But he admitted there were some points that were a bit beyond his understanding. But for the most part, he thought they were well done. Don't waste your energy on not sleeping and studying for exams. Better go eat. Sitting for a 3-hour exam takes up quite a bit of energy, and in the afternoon there is a more important practical exam to take. He therefore decided to join the flow of test takers towards the cafeteria. But as soon as they arrived, there was a loud chatter throughout the cafeteria. All seats have been taken, and at the stalls, there was a long queue that stretched back several meters. Luckily, today his mother brought me a box of lunch. Therefore, he had no problem leaving the cafeteria. All he needed was a seat, and the cafeteria is now no longer a good option. In the end, Izuku was given a seat under a tree. Get a different atmosphere. When looking out, you will see many people choosing the shade of trees to shelter from the sun, whether in groups or alone. It seems like he's not the only one doing this. Izuku spent the remaining time idly checking the news, until there was a voice on the line, informing those who needed to practical exam. Enter the auditorium to listen to the exam details. Auditorium. The exam details are as straightforward as they are in the document handed out upon entering the auditorium. Izuku listened intently, as the host was a famous hero and had his own radio show, presenting Mike. This caused his nerd hero glands to work, as he began to mumble at a quieter level than usual because of this. He is surrounded by a lot of people. It would be a disturbance if he moaned loudly. Shut up, Deku. Katsuki sat beside him, gritting his teeth. It seemed like the seats were arranged so that people from the same school could sit close to each other. After the breakdown had ended, candidates were then sent out to change into the clothes they wanted to wear for the exam. Everyone has a different examination field according to the group they are divided into. Izuku and Katsuki were in different fields because they were from the same school, probably to prevent cooperation. But for them, it's probably more of a conflict. As for Izuku's outfit, it was a green tracksuit. Simple but works well because he doesn't need to wear clothes that support his own quirk. 𝗵𝘃𝗀. What are you waiting for? In reality, they don't have a countdown. Izuku and the other candidates ran into the simulation city as soon as they heard the sound from presenter Mike. Each of them rushed to destroy the robots they saw using their own quirk and skills. Meanwhile, Izuku was running towards his goal. One of the robots smashed into the building, blocking the way, and spoke in a monotone voice. 1 point, Izuku thought. He remembered it from the document given out at the meeting. Fast but fragile, Izuku didn't hesitate as he jumped back. Then call up the model of Bo's staff. Before moving to the side, he raised his arm and prepared to slam it into the robot's neck. But before he could act, a beam of light shot in front of him, destroying the robot. It came from a scruffy blonde boy. When he stared back, the owner of the beam flew away with a beam of light from his own stomach. Izuku didn't plan on following up on the issue. Time doesn't wait. He quickly set a new target, which saw a group of robots come into view. They have 3 2 points and 1 and 3 points each. Then we'll have to speed things up a bit, Izuku thought as he dissipated the 6-foot-long metal bar in his hand. He couldn't waste any more time running towards them and letting his points be taken away. The new technique I've been practicing for months is finally time to use. Reinforcement energy is pumped throughout the body to power muscles and organs. His emerald eyes glowed brightly, competing with the green lightning sparks that erupted in various parts of his body. 𝗧𝗂 let out a breath. In the next blink of an eye, he transformed into a green blur, rushing forward and quickly bashing the 5 robots until they were incapacitated. He then immediately moved to another robot within sight. The results were not much different. No robot could withstand his hands and feet. Meanwhile, 𝗧𝗂 stopped moving after destroying the robot. One of the robots detected him and fired a missile. It made his glowing eyes narrow before he could slide and dodge to the side, then jump in and destroy the robot in one go. Gained another 3 points. 𝗧𝗂 sighed as his crotch locked. He lunged and punched a robot with 2 points into a building and kicked another one nearby at another robot. In normal times, with this much force, the repercussions would definitely break his arms and legs. It looks like this new technique really works. After taking a breather, seconds later, 𝗧𝗂 charged forward in a blur of green light, before jumping and climbing up the building and rolling in the air. Then he swung his heel down at the 3-point robot that was attacking the poor examiner. "What's wrong?" 𝗧𝗂 asked the exam candidate if he had just helped with a friendly smile. The boy looked back at 𝗧𝗂. Thank you," he stammered, barely audible. "No problem." The green-haired owner nodded before running off. 𝗧𝗂's point-collecting destruction continues, along with helping other troubled exam candidates, because being a hero isn't just about stomping on the villain, and it's over, but you must help victims as well. It's funny that people who wanted to be heroes forgot this point and focused solely on destroying robots. Few people can think of it. He bet Katsuki wouldn't miss it at this point. 5 minutes later, 𝗧𝗂 cancelled the reinforcement and dissipated the weapon to take a breather and review the score he received, 70 points. Control room. Wow, look at that green-headed kid. It suddenly became much faster and more violent. Is it a power booster? Where did you get the weapons from? Or you can create objects too, like that student recommending that person. Hybrid quirk is very interesting. The others also performed equally well. Whether it's news, movement, decision-making, or raw power, the teachers who were watching the live broadcast on the monitors chatted about the interesting candidates. Because there were so many people with physical potential this year, the villain simulation was almost meaningless. Until finally, it was deemed appropriate that it was time to release something cool. There are a lot of bright people here, but the real thing will be from now on. Be feel tight. 𝗧𝗂 felt the vibrations grow stronger as he turned to look around. I saw a giant robot moving in and destroying everything in its path. Without having to tell him much, he immediately knew that it was a 0-score robot, which is a signal that it is time to escape. Oh my god, UA has gone crazy. We must escape quickly. Holy shit. The other candidates instinctively ran away. No one thought of fighting because they knew that even if they destroyed it, they wouldn't get any points. It will only be a waste of energy and time. Running away is the right thing to do at this time. 𝗧𝗂 was about to run away as well. He didn't have to insist on this, however, he also saw people whose legs were crushed by building debris and were unable to move. He could only try to get up with difficulty. It's also in the direction of the giant robot's journey. The desperation was shown on the face of the brown-haired girl, who looked familiar. Was that the person from this morning? You crazy bastard. Without hesitation, 𝗧𝗂 immediately ran back to help the unlucky girl. If he runs away now, he doesn't have the qualities to be a hero. Reinforcement. With that, energy erupted from deep within his heart and flowed throughout his body again so that he could go and rescue the young girl in time. The increase in strength shortened the distance between 𝗧𝗂 and the girl, who needed help in seconds. 𝗧𝗂 immediately removed the problematic piece of concrete. Then he reached out his hand. "Mister." The girl looked up at him in shock for several seconds. She finally grabbed her hand to let him pull her up. 𝗧𝗂 placed the girl's arm around his neck and held it, his other arm wrapped around her waist. "Then get ready to run." "Just a moment," the girl said, putting her hand on her own body. In the blink of an eye, 𝗧𝗂 felt that the weight he had been carrying had become much lighter. It was as if the girl's body was weightless. The power to lose weight. "No, this isn't the time to analyze." "Thank you," 𝗧𝗂 said, and the girl nodded awkwardly. The two immediately headed out before being stepped on. When he saw that he was at a safe distance, he stopped running and put the girl down. The sound of the announcement of the end of the exam sounded. 𝗧𝗂 cancelled his quirk and took a sharp breath. Today, he exerted a lot of energy. "Sorry for wasting your time. If you don't mind coming to help me, you could have scored more points." The girl who had been saved walked over and apologized with remorse. "It's okay. Helping people in trouble is a hero's duty. Besides, you helped me this morning," 𝗧𝗂 said without regretting the points he should have received. "That's very kind. And you're Raka Ochako. Nice to meet you." The girl introduced herself. "Nice to meet you too. I'm Midoriya 𝗧𝗂." While the two were introducing themselves, the medical unit also came to care for the injured. They received candy from the nurse. As soon as he ate, he felt better. before heading to the bus to return to the changing room with the others. 1 week after the entrance exam, a letter from the UA was also sent to the test takers, informing them of the exam results. The Midoriya family also received that letter. And of course, it was a congratulatory letter to Midoriya Izuku, who passed the practice exam with a maximum score of 120 points, including 70 points for destroying robots and 50 points for assisting, as well as passing the written test. In short, he could enter the hero branch without any problem. Izuku sighed in relief. His mother, who was at the side, was in tears as her son passed the entrance exam to Hero Academy and got the highest score. "Oh, Mom, I'll call Dad first." Mrs. 𝗵𝗃 then ran towards her room at an alarming speed. Before he regained his composure, he summoned a stick to wipe away the tears that were on the ground. Sometimes he wondered if his mother had a second quirk or if it was genetics that made the tear glands produce more tears than in normal people. Several days have passed since the exam results were announced. Izuku continued to train his body while using his quirk. Whether it's replicating an object over and over or giving your body a boost and running around the forest all day. Because quirk is like a muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Izuku's school life revolved around practicing and occasionally hanging out with his friends. As time passed and the first weekend of April arrived, students at UA school had to attend an orientation session before starting school the next day. Izuku, wearing a standard UA school uniform, was walking towards the classroom in no hurry. Location of the rooms. He knew it all from the maps and road signs. This time is exploration. And as far as looking at the lifestyle of high school students on the first day, it is not different from that of middle school students at all. Everyone gathered into small groups to talk to each other both in the room and outside the room, whether it's general matters or introducing yourself. Until Izuku's body was brought to a stop in front of a large door with a sign indicating it belonged to room 1A, from which a loud, jamming sound could be heard. But just by listening to Izuku's voice, he knew who the owner of the voice was. "Bakugo Katsuki, damn it. Why do I have to be in the same room as that guy?" The green-haired boy thought wistfully that he couldn't escape from this idiot. If it weren't for All Might having studied here, he would have gone to Shiatsu. He took a few breaths before sliding the door open, but he had to stop halfway when a woman's voice greeted him. "Tussy green hair. This must be Midoriya-kun. She herself is in room so cool. You too, you're Raka-san." It turned out that the owner of the voice was the person he had helped during the entrance exam. Izuku replied with a smile. "Then let's go in." The young man then moved and opened the door, which was met with a picture of Katsuki having problems with other people, as expected. The images from yesterday when he was in Alder were replayed in his head. If he could, he would walk to the director's office and ask to be changed to room B. Unfortunately, he didn't have that kind of power. But isn't that the person who stood up and spoke in the middle of the auditorium? Izuku recognized the person arguing with Katsuki because that person stood out so much on exam day. As soon as the two walked in, they immediately caught the attention of the people in the room. They seemed to be the last. At the same time, the young man who was arguing with Katsuki walked up to them and introduced himself. Meanwhile, Katsuki just stared hard at Izuku before turning away. "My name is Ida Tenya. I'm from Shumei High School." A tall, bespectacled boy argued with Katsuki about manners, introducing himself with a serious, hard expression and playing with his hands like a robot. But when considering which school they come from, Izuku wasn't surprised. "Midoriya Izuku, nice to meet you." He introduced himself simply. "My name is Uraraka Ochako. Nice to meet you." You two. The three of them, who had already introduced themselves, had not had time to chat further. They were interrupted by a new man in a chrysalis sleeping bag. "This is the hero branch. If you want to make friends, go do it somewhere else." Amidst the surprise and doubt of the entire room, the man then got up from his sleeping bag and complained that everyone was talking to each other before introducing himself as the homeroom teacher. He then sent everyone to put on gym clothes and meet at the stadium. Aizawa Shoda. Izuku felt familiar with his homeroom teacher's name. Then he realized it as he walked towards the stadium. Their homeroom teacher was Eraserhead, a hero who has the ability to stop someone else's quirk from working. It is not well known because it is rarely published in the media. There is no official product, but you can find information on web boards where heroes are discussed, and there are handmade goods sold for specific groups. And of course, there are details about said hero in his analysis book as well. Quirk test. Many students asked without understanding, because as soon as he arrived, he found the homeroom teacher standing and waiting. And when he saw all the people coming, he immediately got to the point, so it was no wonder that everyone was suspicious. "There won't be an orientation or getting to know each other first?" Ochako dared to ask, even though it's actually the first day of the academic year. But instead, I had to come and take the test instead. "What is this?" Other people thought this way too. "Heroes don't have time for things like that," Eraserhead replied. And before anyone said that, the hero branch in the other room went to listen to the orientation. He continued, "Another thing that UA is known for is being unique. That includes teachers, who have the right to do whatever they want with their classes to get the best results." Everyone was speechless, but the homeroom teacher didn't care and immediately started getting into the matter. "You guys probably did this when you were in middle school, right? Physical fitness test without using quirk." After speaking, Eraserhead held up a cell phone that displayed a list of the 8 tests for everyone to see. "Before you start complaining about the education system of this country, which tries to be equal when it isn't, okay, enough of this off topic. So without wasting time, let's get started." Eraserhead asked the student who had come out on top in the entrance exam. "Midoriya got first place in the practice exam, right?" "Yes." The owner of the last name nodded. "How many meters did you throw a softball in middle school?" Eraserhead asked. 50 meters, sir." Izuku replied. Eraserhead nodded and handed the ball to the green-haired boy. "Then lift your index finger to the circle on the floor. Now go into the circle and try throwing using your quirk." Izuku took the ball that fit in his hand and walked into the marked circle. Under the curious eyes of his classmates, he tried to keep his shyness in check, then set up the basic stance for throwing a softball. Emerald eyes looked ahead. Curly smiled slightly as he summoned his inner strength to cover his entire body. Then he swung his arm and threw the ball with all his strength. Smash! The ball soared diagonally into the air at high speed, before falling and hitting the ground amidst the attention of my classmates and that familiar shout, "I'm definitely an All Might fanboy." Eraserhead's cough cut in as he showed his students the results of the distance measuring device attached to the ball on his cell phone. 351 meters. The numbers on the screen made the hero students very excited, until the teacher saw that everyone was having fun and threatened to expel the person who came in last place. Ochako cried out in protest to the shock of her classmates, before the teacher gave a motivational speech that made everyone eager to take the test instead of being afraid. Izuku sighed softly and walked out to wait for the test. His number was near the bottom. This would be an opportunity for him to take a close look at the quirks of his classmates. With that, a notebook and pen appeared in the air for him to grab. "This is much more convenient than carrying your own notebook." He ignored the noise. "Where did he get so many notebooks?" Came a loud noise from a group of classmates. "The first test is a 50-meter run. Everyone uses their own quirk to help them reach the finish line, not just by running. But the person who stands out is 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝑖, the engine quirk that takes very little time." It was Izuku's turn. He was able to easily overtake Katsuki by flying. "Again, what is this, Deku? Please explain." Katsuki roared and rushed in, intending to detonate someone. He felt angry and couldn't understand how a worthless bastard who was only good at imitation could have such strength. So he wanted to explode to get answers from the fake. But the explosion never happened, and his body was stopped only by the scarf that had once appeared out of the way of his shabby homeroom teacher. "Don't get into trouble, okay? My eyes are dry." As Izuku had thought, their homeroom teacher was Eraserhead, those whose quirk is to erase the quirk of others. The evidence is that there hasn't been an explosion since the teacher started. It's really a waste of time. The next pair can come and test. When the teacher said that, Katsuki had to back off, and he could only look at the worthless bastard angrily, clenching his fists. He would use the rest of the test to vent all his anger. The second test measures hand squeeze strength. Izuku can weigh up to 200 kilograms, which is considered almost at the top level compared to the entire room. But the one who stood out was Shoji Mizo, who probably had the quirk of adding an arm organ that could produce up to 1,000 compression forces. The other person would be Sato Rikido, who had the quirk of increasing his strength after eating sugar. Next is Anjiro Mashiro, whose tail quirk is unusually simple, but the tail's squeezing force is no joke. Takoyami Fumikage, dark shadow quirk. For the first time, Izuku saw a quirk that had a mind of its own. Kirishima Ijiro, a quirk that made his skin hard, and Goto Koji, a quirk that was unclear. But judging by its force and appearance, it probably is a strong type. Third test, long jump. Izuku can jump across a sand field, while others are still in the sand field. There are only a few people who can do it like him. An example would be a person with a narcissism that rivals Katsuki's but is more polite, Aoyama Yuka, whose quirk shoots lasers from her navel, and also the one who competed for his score in the entrance exam. Fourth test, jump and switch sides. Izuku thought he could score well, but he had to allow the little purple-headed person, Minoru, whose creativity bounced around with a ball on his head so that no one could compare. Fifth test, throwing a ball. Although Izuku was satisfied with his range when he saw Katsuki use the explosion to send the ball 700 meters away, he still came and made a sneering smile. It made Izuku feel like he wanted to take another test immediately. "You lost to me, Deku," Katsuki announced proudly. Amidst the bewilderment of his classmates, some people felt that it was a competition between first and second in the entrance exam. Men's competition. As for the teacher, he thought that he would be a nuisance for another 3 years if he didn't fire someone. However, the person who scored the best was Uraraka Ochako, a girl who he thought had the quirk of weight loss objects. But from what he saw today, he had to update the information. There was no way that losing weight would make the object disappear into thin air. And perhaps it has already gone out of this world because the distance cannot be measured. Her quirk had to do with gravity or telekinesis, like her middle school classmates. The 6th and 7th tests had to be done in the gym again. It's a push-up and a bend over. Most guys do well with push-ups, but they can't be compared to women when it comes to bending over. However, there was one person who did well in both tests. It is a pink-skinned girl, Ashido Mina, who has the quirk of releasing acid. She has excellent control over her body and is quite creative when slipping across the ground on acid when running 50 meters. In the 8th test, the marathon, Izuku was able to take 2nd place. With 1st place going to Tenya, I'd have to say it's a fish. When the final test was over, Izuku closed the notebook and made it disappear. He had gotten quite a bit of information about his roommates. Each person has a very interesting quirk, starting with 𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲, who has a similar quirk to him. She can summon objects from her own skin and use them for testing. Plus, he got good scores on every test. Todoroki Shoto, ice quirk. It was surprising that a fire user's child would turn into an ice user. Perhaps it is a quirk from the mother's side. Hagakure Toru, invisible quirk. Since the body has never been shown, it is assumed that it is some type of uncontrollable mutation. There is no outstanding physical power, but the stealth story definitely gets a perfect 10. He wondered if there was a way to see her true body. Kaminari Denki electric quirk. Unfortunately, the test did not allow him to fully express his quirk's potential, but considering the possibilities of use, it's really worth keeping an eye on. Asuitsuyu, frog quirk, has the ability to jump like a frog. If we look at the frog's appearance, it is possible that it has other abilities as well. Gyro Kyoka headphone jack cable quirk. Not suitable for testing either, but it would definitely be useful in terms of sound perception if what he thought wasn't wrong. Zero Hanta doesn't use his quirk, but from what he heard about his complaints, it was found that it had the quirk of adhesive tape. Another person whose quirk was not suitable for testing was in the open with nothing to hold on to. Therefore, we must rely entirely on physical ability. But I'm still doing well. At this time, everyone gathered in front of the homeroom teacher, waiting to see their scores. But before telling the score, Eraserhead then tells the class shocking news, saying that the expulsion was a lie. It almost made us all dizzy, except for those who guessed it was probably a trick or didn't care who got kicked out anyway. He secretly saw that Tenya's glasses were cracked. Izuku looked at the scoreboard. He was 2nd to Momo. Maybe in the next test, he could use a helper like her. The green-haired man smiled when he saw where Katsuki was. Meanwhile, Katsuki acted completely annoyed at the 4th place. After changing clothes, everyone returned to the homeroom. The homeroom teacher handed out the class schedule and student handbook before leaving. And the whole day, there was no teaching because today was just orientation in the auditorium and homeroom with the homeroom teacher. The students in class missed this part. But when thinking about sitting and listening to the teacher's lecture for hours, maybe they were lucky they didn't go. Finally, when I realized that I didn't study anymore, many people chose to return home immediately. While some choose to stay, it makes the classroom look more open. As for Izuku, he was getting ready to go to the train station to go home. Along the way, Tenya and Ochako join in as well. This is Midoriya-kun. Have you heard of Bakugo before? Tenya asked. Yes, that person named Bakugo seems to have a special thing for you. Plus, they call her Deku, Ochako added. Well, we've known each other since childhood, because my name can also be pronounced as Deku, which means useless. Plus, my quirk came late and didn't really seem useful. That guy used it as a joke, Izuku said. That's really bad, Tenya said, extremely dissatisfied. But it isn't like that, is it? She got 1st place in the entrance exam and 2nd place in today's test. There was no way a useless person could do it anyway. But Deku is pronounced the same as Dekoru, which means I can do it, Ochako said brightly. My name is Deku. I never thought of that. Thank you, Izuku blushed, because no one had looked at his name like this before. Too gullible, Midoriya-kun. Isn't it a parody name? Tenya shouted. Haha, the 3 of them chatted casually and guessed what else there would be tomorrow. Until they reached the train station, they separated because they had different goals. The next day, morning classes are more common than you think. It's no different from when we were in middle school. There is a foundation and a review of old content. Izuku could clearly see the boredom in each of their expressions. They want to be heroes, not academics. The time had elapsed until 4 periods had elapsed, and the morning studies were over. The next period is the moment that everyone has been waiting for. It is to eat lunch and relax. The food at UA cafeteria is priced in opposition to its quality. It's an honor for everyone to have a professional hero cook for you at an affordable price. This person has passed through the door like a normal person. The afternoon session was beyond our expectations, because no one expected to be taught by the #1 hero. Everyone was very excited, but 𝗧𝗂 knew there must be something behind it, because he was aware of All Might's injury, and after piecing together a bit more information, he learned that All Might's appearance time had decreased since he defeated the villain Toxic Chainsaw 6 years ago. All Might must have been injured in that incident. But this villain was nothing more than a low-level villain who would definitely not be able to do anything to All Might. It must have been some other villain who did it and has been covered up. All Might's inclusion as a teacher was to hide the fact that his time on the job was reduced in order to prevent the possibility that he was injured. It was a reason 𝗧𝗂 could understand. If the matter of All Might being injured and unable to work all the time were to come out, the destination will definitely be chaos. The villains are probably eager to come out and cause chaos. Even though it's strange that I just started doing it now, he had to pay attention to the present. The subject I teach is the basic hero subject. It is the subject with the most credits, and in order not to waste time, we will start with a fight. Wow, everyone became even more excited at All Might's words, especially with Katsuki when it comes to fighting. All Might then told the students to go change their clothes. This is a set that each person has designed and sent to the school for inspection, before being forwarded to relevant companies to make it a reality with appropriate materials. Beta Field. After changing clothes, everyone gathered at the replica city that was used during the entrance exams. Each of them wore their own colorful and unique outfits. 𝗧𝗂's outfit was a green-black color scheme that covered most of his body. All Might allowed the students to discuss and criticize each other's outfits to keep the atmosphere from becoming too tense. And when we talked among ourselves until we were satisfied, each student took turns asking All Might about the battle, until All Might couldn't answer and decided to pick up the poem and read it to explain today's lesson. Take a team of 2 and divide them into heroes and villains. The hero must capture the villain or defuse the bomb in the allotted time to win. The villains must defeat the heroes or protect the bombs until the time runs out. As for matching and selecting sides, it can be done randomly. So each person walked in a line and picked out a random box. 𝗧𝗂 is paired with 𝐒𝐿. Once they are matched up, then it is a draw for the sides that must fight. The first jackpot split was for 𝗧𝗂's team to be heroes and Katsuki and Tenna's team to be villains. I will crush you, Deku. Come on, Bakatsuki. It was like a spark of lightning flashing back and forth between their eyes. The rest did not understand the interaction between 𝗧𝗂 and Katsuki, but he didn't say anything because he was about to start fighting. All Might sent the people who didn't fight this round to the monitor room. He will personally provide further explanations to both teams. The villain team will get to prepare in the building first. Then, when the signal is received, the hero team will enter. They can fight with all their might, but if it gets too much, All Might will come in and stop it. Once All Might was gone, they began to talk. This is your Raka-chan. I want you to go look for the bomb. I thought it would definitely be just Ida-kun watching over me. But don't fight yet. I'll deal with Katsuki, and then I'll go help. 𝗧𝗂 said his plan. Yes, but Midoriya-kun doesn't think that the 2 of them will be together. If that's the case, that's too bad, 𝐒𝐿 asked, not sure she could hide from the 2 of them. Katsuki, that guy can't just stay still. Plus, they're the ones who like to go solo. He'd probably come to us right away. So you can trust me. We won't find them together, 𝗧𝗂 assured. 𝗒𝐿 nodded. The 2 review plans and test communications to see if there are any problems so they can be resolved. Let's start. As soon as they received the signal, the 2 entered the building. They will stay together until they meet Katsuki, so that 𝗒𝐿 doesn't have to meet her alone. Otherwise, it's bad, because she will be easily manipulated. It looks like I'm not on the 2nd floor. They walked until they reached the stairs leading up to the 3rd floor, but there was no sign of the enemy. Maybe it's trapped on the next floor, but it didn't make them let their guard down. As they nearly reached the intersection, 𝗧𝗂 told 𝗒𝐿 to stop. Oh, you know now, Deku. The killing explosion king walked out coldly from the corner. If it weren't for the fact that he was worried about them being bombed in their faces, 𝗧𝗂 immediately signaled to his partner that they could go. Don't ignore me. Katsuki roars and uses his blast to charge at the heroes. But 𝗧𝗂 wasn't a slow person who just waited to be attacked. He changed the flow of energy throughout his body and soared, punching the air until it created air pressure that pushed Katsuki back slightly. Go, Midoriya-kun. 𝗒𝐿 nodded and quickly separated herself. As much as she wanted to help, she knew this was not a battle she could join. Both of them were on a very different level from her. Boom! Katsuki tries to fire a blast at 𝗒𝐿, but 𝗧𝗂 swooped in and swatted his arm away, causing the bomb to land somewhere else, allowing 𝗒𝐿 to escape safely. Katsuki saw an opportunity to use his other hand to slam a grenade into his opponent's face, but 𝗧𝗂 was able to move away in time. They stopped moving but were always in a fighting position. Watch the reaction and wait for the other person to act first in order to get back at you. They know each other too well. Knowing each other for 15 years was not in vain. As reckless as Katsuki is, he's not stupid when it comes to fighting. Insulting 𝗧𝗂 didn't blind him to what that fake could do. Even more new abilities have arrived. Damn it, Deku. Are you hiding it? Your strength. Baka's strength is real. If you don't strengthen your power, you won't be able to fight directly. Izuku was truly amazed by his opponent. He had to use a boost to keep up with Katsuki's strength. Without him, it would have been finished. They stood staring at each other. As the knots began to flow down the face, there was no one to wipe them away. They knew that the other party would use that moment to attack. Now it becomes a measure of patience and restraint. But Katsuki's boiling point seems to be much lower. Izuku knew from experience. Your new power is really cool. A power-enhancing type. Is it funny to hide it all this time? Katsuki started to speak. Izuku knew where this was going, so he kept quiet. You are like this. Do you look down on me? Images from the past appeared in Katsuki's head. From giving Izuku the name Deku, the appearance of a quirk that everyone said to be awesome, while Deku doesn't have one yet. And Deku's help when he fell into the water, that look in his eyes. Don't show sympathy for me. This person is superior to a worthless person like you. Bakugo Katsuki doesn't need help from anyone, especially someone weaker than himself. I have never looked down on you. Oh, so what's the deal with keeping your strength hidden all the time? For you to keep it and pretend you don't have it is no different than looking down on me. Katsuki flew in with a blast so powerful and fast that Izuku had no time to prepare. So he thought about grabbing the flying body instead. But he only managed to grab air as Katsuki used another blast to fly overhead and behind him. Izuku knew he couldn't escape, so he quickly turned to follow and raised his arm to block the explosion instead. Boom. Ugh. It's not over yet. Katsuki didn't let Izuku rest. He rushed over to attack again. But it was also the time Izuku had been waiting for. It seems that Katsuki is completely captivated, so he took advantage of the moment his opponent swung his right arm in a wide circle and dodged, and grabbed that arm. This time, there was no mistake. Izuku twisted his foot, lifting the hot-headed boy's body back over his shoulders and slamming him down to the ground quickly and hard. Ugh, do you think like this all the time? Do you think I insulted you, Baka? That's right. You really are an idiot, worthy of Bakatsuki. Izuku used his legs to lock Katsuki's right arm, so he couldn't get up again, while thinking back to the day when my own quirk came out. But it is still ridiculed as being worthless because it can only create small items before it disappears until one day he was able to build something bigger and last longer. But he was still called worthless by Katsuki, with the addition of the word fake. It was something he was very dissatisfied with, and immediately realized that Katsuki was no longer his old friend, the kind of person who always sees himself as better than others, and hurt everyone who sees differently. Midoriya-kun, I found a bomb. It's on the 5th floor. Okay, I'll follow you when you're done this way. Achako's voice brought Izuku back to the present. Let's put things in the past first. He had to stop fighting and go help his teammates finish training. He wasn't sure how much time had passed, because his focus on the battle made him forget to count the time. Meanwhile, Izuku was taking out the tape. He subconsciously relaxed the force holding his arm, giving the person he was holding a moment. A grenade was fired from an upright arm, hitting Izuku in the face. Luckily, again, it was just a jab. But Katsuki was able to break free from his restraints and use a grenade to retreat to his feet. You, Katsuki growled in frustration. That pebble dares to be absent-minded. Both hands release the force of the explosion and push themselves towards the opponent, who is confused by the force of the explosion in front of them. Then sweep the arm that is preferred to catch the other person and throw it back. Izuku saw, and he turned and moved out of the reach of that arm. Then I punched him in the side until the other person was thrown away, before he jumped back and regained his footing. Then a softball appears in both hands and is continuously thrown at the target. Boom, boom, boom. The balls were blown away by the force of the explosion and lost their direction. Even though there were some that went through the force of the explosion, it was beyond Katsuki's ability to dodge. That won't work, Deku. That's right. Katsuki saw Izuku soaring through the clouds of dust from the explosion and quickly realized that the ball was just a distraction for his opponent to attack him. Izuku's right fist was charged, ready to punch. But before the punch could reach Katsuki's face, Katsuki used his dominant arm to slam the grenade into Izuku's face first. Then he was swept away with a punch that was thrust under his chin. Observation room. The classmates and All Might watched the battle with deep emotions. Both Izuku and Katsuki appear to be strong and show off their abilities well, whether it's raw power or fighting skills. However, there were two people who were actually watching and starting to analyze. The first is Shoto, which is especially interested in people with green hair. The quirk that increases power in punches is air pressure. Although it is light, it is like. The bi-colored haired person thought as he glanced at the class teacher, who still had no special expression. The other person is Momo, because she was interested in someone who got first place in the regular entrance exam and was second only to her in the test. And the latest is showing quirks in addition to reinforcement. At first, I was wondering where he got the notebook from yesterday during Aizawa's test. But now I know he has 2 quirks, like Todoroki-san, doesn't he? The black ponytail girl came up with a theory while secretly looking at young Todoroki. Really crazy. Their fighting sense is very good. Ijuru commented after seeing how their 2 classmates fought. While Bakugo was yelling, he had good moves, and Midoriya was calm enough to find the right moment to respond. Tsuyu adds to Ijuru's opinion, with almost everyone nodding their heads to say they agree. Test building, both of them were stunned by the blow to their heads, but it was Katsuki who was able to stand up first. A grenade-shaped accessory on his right arm was raised. "Hoi, Deku, you know that my explosions will be as powerful as the amount of sweat used." Izuku knew what Katsuki planned to do. The grenade-shaped device on his forearm must be the idiot's sweat catcher. He heard All Might's voice screaming for him not to stop what he was trying to do, but the other party seemed to ignore him. "If you don't dodge, you'll die." Izuku wasn't sure if that was true or a joke, but he knew that he wouldn't be able to escape if he didn't increase the amount of energy he was using in his body. But doing so would cause him to be injured and lose his ability to fight. Even any objects that could be created right now would not save him from the blast. It would also be impossible to stop before the bolt was pulled. Because of that, Izuku took a chance. He was already seriously injured, and he wanted to drag his opponent down with him. Izuku clenched his fist and cocked it fully behind his back, with more energy concentrated in his right arm than the rest. He recalled that All Might's punch created a wind pressure that could blow things away. To achieve that level of strength, it would take energy, which would end with his body being damaged, because normally energy is used as much as the body can handle. But months of training aren't too difficult to put out more energy than usual. "Uraraka-chan, there will be a violent explosion. If Ada loses control, hurry and deal with it." "What?" Achako's reply was cut off by the yelling of a hot-headed teenager. "Die, smash, boom." The moment the grenade bolt was pulled out, Izuku pulled his fist back and punched it out with a burst of air pressure. The collision of the 2 great forces between the bomb and the enormous wind pressure caused a violent explosion that spread out in all directions and caused great damage to the building. Even in the monitor room, the vibrations could be felt. This shocked everyone, including All Might. "Is this still in the lesson? These 2 guys are crazy. Wasn't I blindsided when I saw Midoriya counter that explosion?" Achako, on the other hand, took this opportunity to fly in and touch the grenade while Tenya lost her balance from the vibrations, and asking her teammates made things easier. It was what Achako would do if she didn't. I was advised by Izuku to use quirk on Tenya instead to nullify his speed. In the end, with a little trickery, Achako was able to successfully lift Tenya off the ground. For someone who had no previous experience moving in the air without gravity, it was truly a hell of a moment. The arrest was successful. "It's not over yet, hero. You're too involved in the role, Ada-kun." After the deafening sound of the explosion subsided and the smoke cleared, this revealed Katsuki's body leaning against the cracked wall. Clothes are torn. One arm exploded and was damaged. "How is it? Deku, can you stop insulting me?" Katsuki said it with difficulty, because he himself was injured quite a bit from the explosion that came with the air pressure. He quickly looked through the rubble to find the other person. It was found that there was a figure standing behind a smoke curtain. "I told you, I never looked down on you, you idiot." Izuku's voice shouted. "It looks like he's still doing well." Katsuki grits his teeth to suppress the pain and hurries to his feet. Lifting his undamaged arm, he prepared to fire another huge blast. But it's too late. Izuku lunged forward and kicked the top of the straw-haired man's face, causing him to turn. "This bastard. It's over. You were arrested." Izuku took advantage of the fact that the other man wasn't expecting him and immediately wrapped the tape around his arm. Katsuki, who was still dizzy from being kicked in the face, was unable to resist. Plus, "I don't have enough strength left." Many thoughts raced through his head. Losing someone you once despised is not something a person with an ego as big as Mount Fuji could accept. "The arrangements are finished. I'm going. The hero team wins." All Might's announcement came through the speakers. "It looks like Achako has succeeded." Izuku was relieved that he wasn't hurt in vain. He collapsed, not far from Katsuki, because he himself was seriously injured. His right arm turned a dark purple, which was indescribably painful. Both legs were equally sore from pouring too much energy into the lunge. This is the result of using power beyond what the body can handle. But if he doesn't, he won't be able to come and take care of Katsuki in time. This is considered an acceptable expense. The rest of the body suffered much less damage because it was protected by the enhancement, and most of the blast was offset by the stronger wind pressure. After the robot transported both Izuku and Katsuki out to the infirmary, All Might then returned to the monitor room to listen to each student's opinion. But when asked about the people who did the best work, the names of Izuku and Katsuki came out of the mouths of many people, except for Momo, who has a different opinion. Midoriya-san and Bakugo-san are too harsh, especially the latter. Using personal emotions is very stupid. As for Uraraka-san, she failed to reveal her location to the enemy early on, but he did a good job in the end. In the end, Ida-san was so distracted that he missed his move. Therefore, Uraraka-san is the one who performs the best. Everyone was stunned by Momo's analysis. Ochako is so delighted that she almost floats away from being praised. The next pair then entered the field in a new building. The combat training continued until there were 10 pairs, but no one was injured enough to have to go to the hospital room again. Izuku woke up to find that it was evening and the sky had already been dyed orange. He learned from the nurse's room teacher, Recovery Girl, that Katsuki had woken up first and had already left. He was also warned of his injuries by an elderly nurse before being sent away. And come again tomorrow. Now Izuku went to change back into his school uniform because he didn't want to go home in a shabby outfit. But changing clothes with one arm injured is difficult, so he only wore a white shirt. As for the hero costume that's ruined tomorrow, you'll have to ask your advisor where it can be repaired. When walking to the classroom, Izuku, whose right arm had been smeared and strapped to his shoulder, was greeted by his friends, who came to inquire about symptoms, having said that, "It's awesome. It's worth being in the battle for first and second place in the entrance exam, because you guys are setting us on fire. How could you counter such an explosion? Hey, where did you get the ball from? There are so many questions that I don't know who to answer." Izuku suddenly understood All Might's feelings from the previous lesson. He sighed. This was the high school life of a hero student. Luckily, Tenya came to separate everyone, so he didn't have to answer. And I can go home with Ochako and Tenya. On the way home in front of Izuku, Katsuki was leading the way. Since their homes were in the same area, it didn't seem strange for them to meet each other. Plus, today they were on the same train. Katsuki suddenly stopped walking and turned around, speaking angrily. "When are you going to follow me? Sorry already. It just so happens that my house goes this way." Izuku answered and walked past Katsuki. "Hey, don't get ahead of me." Katsuki hurriedly followed, yelling until they were able to walk together. But Izuku didn't respond. The two walked without any conversation with each other, until finally, there was a crossroads where each person had to take different routes to get home. Katsuki stopped walking and spoke again. "Hey Deku, what? Why did you just use your second ability until now?" Katsuki asked. "Because I just found out last year." Izuku answered truthfully. "Shit, I just lost to someone who hasn't been able to use my powers for less than a year. Never mind, I'm only going to lose this time. Remember this," Katsuki announced. But the person you have to fight isn't just me. You can see now how different everyone here is from our old school. He's a person with real potential." Izuku warned. "I will win too. Whether it's the girl with the round face, the girl with the ponytail, or the two-colored head, I'll be number one," Katsuki said confidently. "Well, good luck." Izuku gave a wish and then continued walking home. He had no intention of being number one. In his mind, heroes are not in competition with each other or superior to others, but doing it for other people reaches out to people in need. Because of that, he and Katsuki didn't get along, because they had been going different paths since before quirk even existed. The next day, "All right, today you guys have to choose a class leader." Eraserhead, who looked as sleep-deprived as he did 2 days ago, spoke up while standing in front of the class, still in his sleeping bag. "A while ago, I complained to 2 students that there was a problem. One person uses emotion. One person destroys his own body. He thought he would be faced with a headache." The whole class was talking excitedly. Each of them presented themselves with amusement. As for Izuku, he remained silent. To be honest, he really didn't want to be. His experience in middle school had taught him that if you don't want to run around until your head spins, then don't try to be the class leader. In the midst of chaos, everyone wants to be the room leader. Tenya then spoke out loud and proposed a method for voting for class leaders according to democratic principles. A quiet murmur arose. Everyone has only known each other for a few days. Where will their trust come from? He probably won't get away with voting for himself anyway. And the results were really what they were. Everyone had their own votes except for Tenya, Ochako, and Shoto, and there were 2 people who received more than 1 vote, Izuku and Momo, who voted for Deku. That's it. Izuku was just as curious as Katsuki. It meant that 2 people had chosen him, because he voted for Momo. For 2 reasons. One is to be a recommended student. This means that each skill must be at an excellent level. And the second was the battle analysis he had heard from his classmates. The first point is confirmed to be true. Shoto, who is a student, also recommends it. But as you can see, they are very private people. Definitely not suitable for this job. The result ended with Momo being the class leader with 3 votes. Izuku became vice captain by 2 votes. At lunchtime, Izuku learned that his scores came from Tenya and Ochako. Not surprised, because those 2 were the people he talked to the most. Then it was learned that Tenya came from a family that all had heroes. That would explain his demeanor. probably because of the pressure and expectations from the people around us. Not long after, the alarm sounded, level 3. The seniors said it meant that an outsider had entered without permission. The people in the cafeteria rushed towards the exit in panic. It became a crowded situation. Izuku was separated from his friends by a mass wave of people. He was pushed and pushed against the glass. That's when he saw the professors, who were organizing a group of reporters outside. He immediately realized what had happened. I need to let everyone know so we can stop panicking. It must be something that catches everyone's attention. Izuku used reinforcements and jumped up above the crowd. Then he kicked the concrete pole behind him to launch himself towards the emergency exit sign. Before making a whistle and blowing it to attract attention, he told everyone the truth. There's nothing. The intruder was just a reporter. The teachers are taking care of it. There is no basic hero class in today's afternoon class. Due to the chaos at lunchtime, the teachers had to go to a meeting. The remaining subjects were therefore cancelled. It makes students able to do anything. So everyone dispersed. Izuku took this opportunity to get his hero outfit repaired. So at this moment, a green-haired person from the hero department who was carrying a bag containing a damaged hero outfit stopped in front of the support department's research room door. The sound of metal and objects thrown carelessly through the metal can be heard. He thought he should knock on the door first. I can't find that bastard. Come on, where are you, my child? Has a feminine voice, and he sounded clearly annoyed, as it emanates. Even like that she said out loud, my child really? Izuku hesitated for a moment, then knocked on the door. He then cautiously took 2 steps back. Before turning himself away from the door, he prepared himself in case he was needed. Boom! Izuku's caution was rewarded when a loud noise came from the other side of the door. Is that an explosion? Izuku thought suspiciously as he looked at the smoke coming out of the doorway. I almost went into the hospital room again. He was currently debating whether or not to go back first, because the other side of the door looked extremely unreliable. Wow! The heavy iron door slid open. Before that, Izuku was greeted by the sight of a pink-haired girl wearing a tank top and large glasses on her head. She walked out of the smoke, looking disheveled. Who's here? It's you. A coughing sound sounded from the room. Seems to be a man. Just because an idea pops into my head doesn't mean I have to create it right away. The owner of the grumbling voice walked out the door. He was topless and wore a hat that covered most of his face except for his mouth. Whoa, mistakes are the mother of success, Master Power Loader. Just like Edison said, just because something doesn't do what you plan to do doesn't mean it's useless. The pink-haired girl retorted. This is not the time to talk nonsense. Can't you just listen to what I say? It's only day 3, 3rd day of school, but you exploded again. The same man still shouted, but it did not receive the attention of the accused. Yo, she greeted, panting. Oil stains and other marks on her clothes. My teacher and I are raising a child. Is there anything I can help with? Izuku decided to ignore the Power Loader Master's misleading words and mutterings. I didn't make a child with you, and immediately got to the point. I came to repair and improve hero outfits. Oh, what do you want me to do? She looked at him, looking up and down, before moving her eyes to the bag he was holding. Let me see, she asked. Without waiting for an answer, she grabbed it from Izuku and walked back into the room. Seeing this, Izuku followed. Inside, it looks like a room used to create things, full of tools, and it would probably look better if it didn't explode. Don't rely on Son Hatsum. Give me the manual first, the Power Loader said to the girl. Then he turned and spoke to Izuku. I'll see what I can do. If it's just a little bit, there won't be any problems, and it'll be done in a few days. But if you want to make a major overhaul, you have to wait for the government to approve it. I would like the suit to be more durable and flexible. You've come at the right time. My name is 𝗧𝗵𝗲, and as you know, I'm in the support department. It is my job to do your bidding. Izuku's demand was cut short by the introduction of the pink-haired girl. She came so close that he had to pull away because of his embarrassment. My name is Midoriya Izuku. What kind do you want? Want to try it on my child? What is your quirk? Do you like flying? May asked a series of questions as she caressed the green-haired person's body without permission. Great. Your body is fitter than it looks. I like people with muscles like you. Izuku backed away, blushing. Having never been born, he had never been touched like this by a woman before, except his mother. Hatsum, teacher fees. May moved back to Izuku's bag, took out the outfit, and took the manual she found in the bag to the Power Loader, before returning attention to the next set. What are you doing? May exclaimed at the hero's outfit, which was completely unseen. But for a moment, she smiled. Explain your quirk. The circumstances that led to the destruction of this outfit, and agreed to be a tester for my children. Izuku blinked at her words. These demands are not unreasonable conditions, except for the last point. But if she could fulfill his wishes like she claimed, there would be no reason to refuse. Tester, oh, just come here every once in a while, experimenting on my children or actually putting your clothes to use, she said with a shrug. I helped you. You helped me. Win-win, right? It sounded good. The only thing that made Izuku hesitate was the explosion she made. It is a proposal worth considering. Even seeing Hatsum like this, I accept your skills. Not to mention that, in the future, she would do better. If you need a supporter on your hero path, you should make friends with her, 𝗃𝗯 advised. When Izuku heard this, he nodded and decided to accept, considering the benefits. This way, he could also add more equipment to his arsenal. My quirk is replication. As long as I understand, I can make a copy of that. Mei gasped, and her eyes widened. Before she screamed, that suits my job very well. I'll have the opportunity to try lots of things without fear of running out of materials. Would you be interested in being my partner? Oh my children, mother has come. Unbeknownst to Izuku, the 𝗃𝗯 winced and muttered a soft, oh no. Meanwhile, the young girl was excited about her new knowledge. Izuku decided to put an end to her dream before it went any further. I'm sorry to say that what I've created will only last for a short while, and I don't think it can withstand modification without first disappearing. He swore he heard the 𝗃𝗯 sigh. Oh, what a shame. Mei looked sad but quickly recovered. And what about your outfit? That was from yesterday's battle test. Those burn marks were from the explosion. The broken right arm came from me using too much power, Izuku explained. That was pretty harsh. But from the material used in this suit, it is already very durable, Mei questioned. Surely it can support my normal power. But when I use it more, it tears the dress off. Although I don't think I'll ever need that kind of power again. But it won't hurt if you don't, Izuku replied. Are you saying you can become stronger? Mei asked. You can say that. But when I went to a higher level, my body was also injured. Therefore, I would like a significantly more durable suit and arm guards or gloves that absorb the recoil from punches. And maybe the legs as well. Izuku told him what he wanted. I think I can do it. Mei accepted the request before asking again. But do you know how much more power you have than normal? Because I need to know the level you're at so I can predict the durability of the outfit. I'm not sure about that. I just thought I'd put in as much as I could at the time. Izuku replied, scratching his chin. He had never really thought about it. It was another mistake he made by overlooking things close to him. That will be a problem. Mei also thought deeply. Maybe we will go to a model city or a forest, and let you use your power like yesterday, and break my arm. Izuku thought of what he had to go through. We can use the training footage as a reference, 𝗃𝗯 interjected. Because there were cases where students didn't know their true powers, they couldn't provide enough information to create costumes. So we need to use video to analyze the true capabilities. Oh, that's great. Although I would like to see that power with my own eyes, Mei said with regret. Of course, the real need her job was to put the equipment to the test in a new environment. The 𝗃𝗯 ignored him and continued talking. If what you said is true, it will take a long time to procure the materials. Thank you, Izuku said. All right, if there's no problem with your outfit, then come and try on the kids. Let's get mine. Mei said it excitedly as she pulled out a steel skeleton outfit from nowhere. This is my prototype. A jetpack was also installed. Izuku sensed the strangeness of what was in front of him. But a deal is a deal. Or maybe he would avoid it in favor of something safer. What is that thing over there? Izuku pointed at the armband on the table. Oh, that one is a web shooter, Mei replied. Filament launcher. Izuku was curious about its appearance. I came up with the idea of an American hero with a spider quirk. He shoots webs from his butt. I think it's too funny. So I made a web shooter that attaches to my wrist instead. It looks cooler, she explains of her invention. That's really cool, Izuku commented out loud. Right. Are you interested in giving it a try? Mei asked. Yes, Izuku admitted. He thought it was much safer than a steel frame suit. Then let's do it, Mei said as she walked over and picked up a web shooter. Izuku took it and began to put it on. Is there anything I need to know? First of all, you put it on the wrong side. Mei came to correct him. By placing the device in front of your wrist, and placing the button protruding from the device in the palm of his hand. Second, the fibers are made of a synthetic material that is very tough and flexible, and it will dissolve in 1 to 2 hours. Okay, Izuku began to inspect the equipment, his expressions worsening. If I had to guess, the button on the palm is for shooting. And what about the range? Acceptable weight? Number of shots fired? How does it work? How do you aim to hit the target? I'm glad you're interested in my child, Mei said with a smile. Okay, let's start by moving the buttons on the machine first. Move it all the way to the end. Izuku immediately tried to follow. Suddenly, there was a small spot of green light appears on the machine. Along with that, a red spot appeared on the wall where Izuku raised his arm. It is to turn on the machine and fire the laser. If you just turn it on, just move it to the middle. Izuku immediately understood how this system worked. Mei then began to explain her invention. It's a laser pointer. I'm thinking of adding distance measurements as well. It connects to glasses that display measurement results, but leave that matter for later. The point where the laser appears is where the fiber will be shot. Its range is about 20 meters. Now press the button on your palm. Use the same hand. As soon as Izuku presses, the fibers shoot out of the machine and are directed precisely at the laser point on the wall. If you release your finger from the button, the web will be cut. It can fire about 20 times if used for 20 meters at a time. The green light will change to yellow if 10 meters of fiber remain, and red if it runs out. May continue to explain. Izuku released his finger from the button, allowing the web to be cut. I think it's really cool. It works well as a seizure device. Izuku complimented the thing he was wearing. He could think of various uses for this artifact. It's appropriate that even the teacher recommended it. I can't help but think about how awesome the other things she's created are, he thought, looking admiringly at May, who was rummaging through her desk. Right, my child certainly did more than that. You can use it to swing yourself or pull things in as well. It can be used to tow cars easily. I say, let's go to the city. You will really see the use of my child, May offered excitedly, because I don't know how long it will take to contact them. So we didn't have to wait for the 𝗂𝗧𝗏. So I'm free, Izuku thought before agreeing with May's idea. If you can do it, it's okay. Master Power Loader. I would like to use the beta model city. The next day was the same as usual. Boring study in the morning, then come down for a delicious lunch from a pro hero. Lifestyle is therefore not much different from normal schooling, unless their afternoon class was a hands-on class about being a hero, physical fitness and quirk tests, practice fighting, and today is a rescue practice. After changing clothes, everyone was waiting to board the bus at the meeting point. Izuku is wearing a gym uniform like Katsuki, because their clothes were in the process of being repaired. When the bus arrived, each person sat in their own seat, with Tenya's voice telling everyone to sit according to their number in the background. After the bus had left for a while, there was a conversation between the students. I like to be honest, and I have some questions about Mr. Midoriya, Tsuyu said as she turned to look at her roommate sitting next to her. What is it, Tsuyu-san? Izuku responded, remembering that he wanted to be addressed by his real name, so he didn't miss doing it. I think your quirk is very suspicious, Kiro, Tsuku questioned. How? At first, I thought you had a quirk about increasing your strength, or strengthen something like that, but you can create objects like Yaoyorozu-chan. If it's difficult to say, that's okay. The green-haired man sighed upon hearing this. He knew this question had to come up, but it wasn't that he was uncomfortable in any way. My quirk is called replication. I can copy any object and paste it into the real world. Anything? Someone asked for clarification. Yes, copy and paste whatever you want. Just have the original, Izuku confirmed with a nod. It could be something as simple as an item found in everyday life. He held out his hand. A notebook suddenly appeared in his outstretched hand. I received a surprised gasp from Momo. Of course she can, too. But it must come from the body, not from the air like this, or even something more complicated, like a gun. A black pistol appeared in his hand in place of the missing notebook. Electronic equipment pistols have been replaced by smartphones. When he saw that everyone had seen enough, Izuku then made his phone disappear. Then continue talking. Increasing strength is another aspect of my quirk. It's really awesome, compared to me, who just hardened my skin. My power seems dull, Ijiro complained, showing off his arm that had hardened from using his quirk. Come on, yours is cool too, Kirishima, Izuku encouraged. Thank you, but aside from Midoriya, if we were to talk about strength and outstandingness, it would have to be Bakugo and Todoroki. Ijiro started talking about a new topic, but Bakugo, who gets hot-headed and has a dog's mouth, would probably be more muted than loud. Tsuyu expressed his honest opinion, causing Katsuki to immediately stand up and shout, You crazy frog, I'm already famous. But Tsuyu just leaned over her shoulder and pointed with her thumb. There. You see, even though we've only known each other for a short time, everyone knows how hot-headed you are, like a rabid dog. It's really cool to watch, Denki adds to Tsuyu's opinion. What the hell are you talking about, you bastard of electricity? I'll kill you. Katsuki turned and scolded the electricity user. This was strange to Izuku. He didn't expect to see anyone mock Katsuki so openly, but idiots deserve it. The conversation proceeded easily until the car stopped at today's destination. Everyone gradually got out of the car, before showing excitement about what is in front of us. The huge domed building in front of them was the Rescue Training Center, or Unforeseen Simulation Joint, known as USJ for short. This place simulates various disaster situations, various formats created and controlled by the pro hero 13, who is now teaching them the dangers of using quirk, which can be deadly without control and awareness. Everyone listened intently, because 13 has one of the most dangerous quirks in the world. He deserves to be the one to talk about it without a doubt. 13's quirk is the black hole, a power that can suck everything into a loop. Then it was crushed to become dust. No one is willing to challenge this. After 13's speech ended, their advisor also began telling them about today's plans. That is the rescue work they will have to do. But he didn't finish speaking. Many people could also see the spatial distortion of the fountain in the central plaza below. It was a black vortex that had expanded until it was large enough for a group of people to walk out of it. Eraserhead quickly ordered all the students to stick together and let 13 protect the students. Personally, he entered battle mode and quickly picked up his own equipment and put it on, while some students suspected it might be a test. Don't move, they're villains. It turns out it wasn't a test. Many people panicked, but there were those who controlled themselves and tried to analyze the situation. 𝐻𝐸𝐽 did a great job in this part. Kaminari tried to use her quirk to contact the UA. Eraserhead left his last command and jumped down to the courtyard below. Everyone saw their mentor's fighting ability for the first time. Wow, that's worthy of a pro hero. He seemed to have no problem at all against many opponents. Plus, you can control your scarf like it's your arms and legs. What material is that scarf made of? Izuku was very enthusiastic in his observation, and I'm interested in adding Eraserhead's scarf to my arsenal. This is no time for analysis, Midoriya-kun. Izuku agrees with Tenya, but I really couldn't resist. He quickly ran back to the group to get out of this dome. But in front of the group of students, there was a black mist blocking the way. While he was babbling about getting rid of All Might, Katsuki and Ijiru attacked the black mist at the same time. But it doesn't seem to work. The black mist only dispersed before gathering again, so normal physical attacks won't be effective. Izuku wrote this information down in his memory. If it weren't for emergency situations like this one, he would have picked up a notebook and written down information. Because quirks and portals or teleports are not easily seen. Almost there. Even though I'm just a student, I can't be careless. The black mist's eyes narrowed. Before widening, the mist quickly spread and covered the students. Izuku tried to drag his closest roommate away, but he was too late. By the time he realized it, he was in the air and falling to the ground below, where the dirt mixed with the structure of the building. Izuku regained his composure, activated the power-up reinforcement, and flipped in midair. With his feet pointing down, he was able to reach the ground safely. Among a group of villains, the villains seemed to have planned it well. Separate and then destroy. He could only hope that no one would be sent alone to meet the villains. Izuku knew that many of his classmates were unfit to fight alone. Either the quirk is not conducive or the body is not ready. Plus, he probably doesn't have any combat experience. But I can't worry about other people, because this road itself has things to deal with. Izuku looked around. He saw dozens of villains starting to move closer to him. It looks like we just got one brat. It's boring. Anyway, let's kill. The villain ran up with a knife in his hand. Izuku only brushed it off and punched the creature in the chest, causing it to bounce off and hit another villain. The villains saw this and attacked together, only for Izuku to jump away, and fell next to the villain, who had a horn in the middle of his forehead. Then he punched the villain. Izuku's fist hit the man's lower abdomen, causing Han-Giant to squirt out water, before Izuku spun around and kicked his neck again, then used the falling body as a stepping stone to jump. Izuku charged forward. It became a blur in the air. I smashed the bald-headed villain to the ground, and kicked the villain with thorns on his back at the other two villains with extreme force. No doubt, it would hurt them all badly. The remaining villains could only look on and be amazed. When the hero student started attacking, he basically disappeared into thin air because of his speed. Each blow was so powerful that he was nearly blown away, throwing those bodies far away as if they were weightless. What is this strength? Aren't you just a student? It's a different level. The mistake is that they view us as just students. But I must say that it was a good plan to separate us from each other. Die. Izuku turned to dodge the villain, who foolishly tried to attack him with his spear, before turning around and kicking him in the neck until he lay on the ground. These villains are very weak. They were just bees shouting to the enemy during a sneak attack. Using quirk isn't that great. Alright, let's get it all out. Izuku let go of the last villain's collar after it told him the information he needed. A weapon made to kill peace symbols. He wanted to laugh at the thought of these villains, but he couldn't laugh because he knew All Might's injury. Maybe it's possible, Izuku thought. Therefore, he decided to go back and meet with his advisor at the fountain, because he had a premonition that that was where he was most worried. And if ordinary villains were this skilled, the remaining people wouldn't be too worried. At the entrance to USJ-13, the students who survived were sent to different zones. He was trying to escape from the mysterious villain who was the cause of his roommate's disappearance. We have to go out and warn the school about what's going on here, 13 said, before turning to Tenya. You have the fastest speed, giving you the best chance of sending a message to the other teachers in time, but it's shameful to let the rest of you fight and me to run away. Tenya protested. It's not embarrassing. Ochako said. Even heroes have to back down sometimes. You are our best at speed. Come on, you are our only hope. But part of being a hero is reading the situation and acting accordingly. 13 scolded him. This is not the time to question my orders, or worry about your dignity. When everyone's words were heard, Tenya found himself thinking of his older brother and looking down at his own hands. If I were Tensei, what would I do? He asked himself, already knowing the answer. He finally raised his head and raised his fist to resolve. Okay, I will. Are you crazy, making plans right in front of me? You all are either hopeless or stupid, Black Mist said as he began to spray a new wave of mist towards the remaining crowd. Not both, 13 yelled out as she opened the hole in her index finger. There was a huge gravitational force sucking in the black mist. Go now. Tenya then started running towards the door. What a fool. You think just speed will be enough. But first, the villain turns his body into a portal. Then another portal vortex was created behind 13, causing her gravity to begin tearing her back apart. You are a rescue hero. Naturally, he had less combat experience than usual. Therefore, I couldn't imagine that I would be attacked by my own power. No, master, Mina cried out as she watched their teacher fall. I told you, speed isn't enough. A portal vortex appeared in front of Tenya, ready to send him somewhere else to prevent him from informing the school. But Mizo jumped in and grabbed the whirlpool until the mist dispersed. Don't stop running. Really annoying. The mist figure flew towards Tenya so quickly that he caught up with him. See it like this. Without hesitation, Ochako gritted her teeth and charged at the misty figure. Looking at the metal plate, she once thought, there must be something I can feel. I don't know what it is, but if it can still cling to the mist, then it must be important. She jumped onto the misty body, landed on his back. Then he grabbed the metal plate with both hands, and immediately activated her quirk. This caused the body, shrouded in mist, to lose control due to its gravity being removed, before she threw it behind her. Run, Ida-kun. Up there, I understand. Hanta and Mina began using long-range attacks on the fog figures that were suspended in the air. This causes the villain to dodge attacks and become distracted. Meanwhile, Tenya arrived at the door and was able to pull the large door open, before he continued to run at an even faster speed than before. The remaining hero students heard a sigh from the mist-shrouded figure. I finally missed the move. Like this, the game will be over. He then transformed himself into a whirlpool and disappeared in midair. When the threat was gone, the remaining students rushed to the injured person to provide what first aid they could. At the fountain, Eraserhead was able to defeat enough villains that the crowd began to thin out, and he got closer to the culprit. The gaunt man seemed to be the mastermind behind it all, while others it appeared to be a small, nameless thug, hardly worth his attention. However, Eraserhead knew he was slowing down. Although he is used to fighting with many people, he is not invulnerable. He couldn't maintain his strength forever, so he headed toward the culprit. If he can take down the boss, the chance of the remaining people surrendering increases greatly. It's always like this. When the leader is removed, the subordinates will be lost. All he had to do was be patient until then, and he will be able to help his students. Eraserhead stared at the villain leader, who was rushing in to disable the quirk, and shot his scarf in pursuit. But he was caught by the criminals. 23, 22, 21, 20. The villain leader counted down as he kept running over. Eraserhead pulled on his scarf and lunged at him with an elbow. But the leader of the evil army was able to use his hand to catch the elbow before it hit him. Almost there. It looks like time is running out, the villain leader said as he began to destroy the hero's elbow. Eraserhead suppressed the pain and punched the chief villain in the face, before jumping back out. Meanwhile, two villains rushed in and attacked, but he was able to get two of them to lie on the ground. A quirk that requires staring like that is not suitable for continuous use for a long time. And the more you force it, the more time you spend working will decrease accordingly. Am I right? Chief Villain was questioned. You have to jump into the middle of the enemy like this to protect the students. This guy is really cool. Cool enough to be a hero. Eraserhead was not pleased by his enemy's praise. He prepared to attack again. But he stopped when he felt movement near him, and the brightness darkened, which I really hate. When looking up, he saw a black muscular creature with an exposed brain. Introducing the peace symbol destroyer, Namo. Eraserhead had only a split second to react to the hand that reached out and slammed him to the ground. Not too far away, 3 students were secretly watching, and one person decided to intervene. Todoroki-chan, what are you doing? Tsuyu asked when she saw her two-toned-haired friend stand up. I'm going to help the teacher. Before that, at the pool area, Shoto and Minoru are helped onto the ship by Tsuyu. They were discussing ways to deal with the villains in the water. Definitely dead, definitely dead. Why did I have to go through something like this? The boy with the purple ball of hair shouted in panic and fear. Shut up. We're not going to die, Kiro, Tsuyu said. Do you have any ideas, Todoroki? I'll take care of it myself, Shoto offered, before adding in a warning. If you're like a frog, then you should stay away from me when I use my power. Kiro. Tsuyu wrapped his tongue around Minoru and jumped to the highest point of the ship to escape from what was about to happen, because she knew what Todoroki with two-toned hair would do. When he saw that the road was clear, 𝗀𝗱 grabbed the edge of the ship's fence. Then activate your own quirk. Ice and cold steam radiated from his hand slit, run through the hull of the boat and into the water below. In just a few seconds, the water 10 meters in front of 𝗀𝗱 was frozen. The villains were unable to escape in time. There's more in the back, 𝗂𝐴 warned because she was high up and could see the surroundings of the ship. No problem, 𝗀𝗱 replied, walking across the street. Before repeating the same steps, no one survived the freeze either. It has to be like this, 𝗂𝐴 said, expressing surprise at his classmate's power. Amazing Todoroki, Minoru shouted happily. Then it's time to gather information, 𝗀𝗱 said, jumping onto the ice. He walked over to one of the villains who had not yet been completely frozen. I would like to ask what you guys plan to kill All Might. Building collapsed zone. The sparrow is crazy. As expected, Katsuki complained after taking out all the villains. I think we'd better go outside. It doesn't look safe, Ijiro warned, now that they were in the ruins of a building that looked like it might collapse at any time. What? You think I'm scared, you stupid bastard? Katsuki yelled. No, I mean, we should help other people. Since we are here, the rest of us will be no different, Ijiro explained. If you really want to help, go. As for me, I'm going to kill that portal, Katsuki said. Look for it. I think our attack will have no effect. What are you going to do? Ijiro asked. Shut up. Listen, if the warp can bring enemies in, it must be able to take them out as well. So we have to take care of it first so that no one else can escape or come in, Katsuki explained. And besides, there's no way that thing can completely block the attack. As the two young men talked, there was a villain who could blend in with his surroundings, came in to attack from behind Katsuki, and Katsuki turned around and slammed a grenade into the face of the villain until it completely disappeared before continuing. If there are only people like this, those guys are fine. Mountain zone all right, leave the rest to me. You can do your best, Kaminari-san, Momo said as she and Kyoka hid under covers that were made to block electricity. Then don't be considerate. Denki exploded with electrical power radiating from his body in a wide area. Shocks all villains in the area until they are incapacitated. There was a scorching smell spread throughout the mountainous area. Awesome. I didn't think that guy would be this powerful, Kyoka said in surprise. I think we should hurry back and join the others, Momo suggested. Fire zone, it's okay, 𝐒𝐴𝐵, Mashiro said after flicking his tail at the villain who tried to attack his invisible friend. Thank you, watch your back, Toru warned. 𝗧𝗵𝗄, Makairo rolled back and kicked his side, sending villain flying. I think we will quickly find a way out of here. It's crazy hot. Agreed. Toru said this after punching another villain. There are too many of them. If we get surrounded, it will be bad. Storm zone because there isn't much light. My dark shadow is powerful, 𝗵𝗃 said after using his sentient shadow to slam two villains into a building. But it's hard to control. I'm sorry I couldn't do anything, Koji said regretfully. It's okay. Just tell me their location, 𝗵𝗃 said, before slamming his shadow onto the group of villains that were rushing in until they were blown away. But where is the exit? Follow me, Koji said after talking to the mouse in his hand, before dropping it to the ground and letting the small creature run after it. It looks like my hunch was right. Izuku ran all the way to the fountain and saw his mentor lying on the ground in a very disheveled state. The next thing that came into view was a large humanoid ice sculpture. Not too far away stood 𝗀𝗱, radiating cold air from his body. And finally, Tsuyu and Minoru hugged each other behind the room's only ice user. Clearly, frogs don't like the cold. But the other person seemed to take the opportunity to hug the girl more. He quickly moved in next to 𝗀𝗱. Midoriya and Todoroki, the two greeted and nodded at each other. But there was no time for further conversation as the ice began to crack open, revealing a large, muscular black figure that was recovering from frostbite and regenerating severed organs. It had a pointed beak like a bird and an open head, showing its brain. Then a villain filled with hand fragments walked out from behind the big man. It looks like there are more people coming, damn it. The villain scratched his own neck, before a black mist appeared next to them. He then called the light blue-haired villain who possessed many hands Shigaraki Tamura, and the owner of the name responded with the other's name as well, Kurogiri, before the two talked about it. The fact that one student was able to escape this made the villain sound very dissatisfied, and he started scratching his neck harder, threatening to kill Kurogiri if it weren't for the quirk. The portal was his only escape. Then they discussed the idea of returning because they couldn't handle All Might along with so many pro-heroes. The two villains' conversation made the hero students who heard it feel relief. But Izuku and 𝗀𝗱 were still cautious, because they had invested in an invasion of this size. They shouldn't retreat easily. But before returning, please leave a mark on the peace symbol. Both concerns were real. When the villain named Tamura came at him with such speed, even Izuku, who was in power-up mode, was shocked. 𝗀𝗱 was able to create a wall of ice to protect them in time, but it was easily destroyed. But it took time for Izuku to lunge in with his overcharged right punch, only to have nothing happen but a very strong wind blow. There is no reflection of shock. No arm injuries, nothing I had planned happened. Izuku was stunned by the sight before him. His punch that was supposed to hit the blue-haired villain was stopped by the muscles of his black abdomen. He didn't know how it had moved here. If the blue-haired person was shockingly fast, this black guy was too fast for him to keep up with. This was a good punch. I would have been blown away if I had been hit. But I'm sorry that 𝗏𝗲 was created to oppose All Might. The force of this punch won't irritate this guy. The black villain, also known as 𝗏𝗲, grabbed Izuku's right arm with one hand and gripped it tightly. His other hand rose and prepared to crush the head of the person he had captured. Shit bang. Meanwhile, Izuku was struggling from death's clutches, and Shoto, who was about to shoot ice at 𝗏𝗲. There was a loud bang from the entrance. Draw the attention of everyone in the area to stop what they are doing and look in the same direction. That's above the entrance stairs. A tall man in a white long-sleeve shirt stood tall with a sullen expression on his face. Short, golden blonde hair was swept back. There are two distinct clusters that rise up uniquely, but there was no smiling like he normally did. All Might, whether students or villains, they all called out the same name. Many villains who wanted to kill All Might began to feel frightened when they met him. As for the students, they were more than happy. It's nothing, because I'm here. All Might loosened his collar and ripped off his tech tie, before quickly disappearing. Knocked many villains to sleep and recovered in the blink of an eye, before picking up Eraserhead and apologizing. Then the number one hero disappeared again, and appeared in an area far away from the remaining villains, along with 4 students. Fast. Izuku thought in shock at how fast he was moving so blindly like a 𝗏𝗲. He is truly the strongest man in the world. You guys go to the entrance. Please leave it to Aizawa-kun. Be careful, All Might. That big guy had a level of regeneration that could grow organs and negate the force of a punch. It was made for you. As for the Black Mist, he didn't have a real body, but has the ability to open dimensional doors. Finally, there's the Hand Mask, who probably has abilities related to his hands. Thank you for the information, young Midoriya. Now hurry along. All Might rushed in and attacked the blue-haired villain with a Carolina Smash, but 𝗏𝗲 came in to take his place without any problem. 𝗏𝗲 swept his arms together to hug All Might, but the blonde hero shrank and dodged in time, before punching 𝗏𝗲 in the stomach once. But a villain without a brain is nothing. All Might then threw several more punches into various parts, but nothing happened as before. He took a step back and remembered what the green-haired summoner had told him. At first, I thought it might just be strong, but after being hit by many punches, he was still unfazed. And then I saw that there was still a revival. The 𝗏𝗲 followed and attacked All Might, but All Might dodged and counterattacked with several more punches, with the results remaining unchanged. The peace symbol's murder weapon didn't feel at all disrespectful, and I don't know if it's with confidence or with stupidity. Tamura then starts talking about 𝗏𝗲's ability to absorb shock, making it useless no matter how many punches he gets, as well as giving advice on how to manage 𝗏𝗲. All Might, who was listening, didn't hesitate to follow suit. Take advantage of the moment when 𝗏𝗲 throws a punch around the back, then hugged the body. He then threw him to the ground in an arched position so that 𝗏𝗲's head hit the concrete. In the process, it created a force of wind that caused standing people to nearly lose their balance. Izuku's group, who were leading their homeroom teacher to the stairs, also stopped to watch. As soon as the smoke cleared, it was revealed that 𝗏𝗲's upper body had disappeared into a black vortex, and emerged from the same colored vortex on the ground below All Might. The 𝗏𝗲 grabbed both sides of All Might's body and squeezed them tightly until they bled. Even if you have the information, you're still at a loss. I suspect it's not just our power that's decreased. All Might releases 𝗏𝗲. He then tried to pry 𝗏𝗲's hand out of his own wound, but it didn't move at all. The black vortex itself began to swallow All Might's body. The situation is extremely bad. Izuku couldn't let things continue like this. If he doesn't do anything today, there is a chance that the world will lose its symbol of peace. Tsuyu-san, please take the teacher along. Alright, what are you going to do? Crazy story. Izuku finished answering Tsuyu and turned to Shoto, who was walking with him. He alone may not succeed, but if there are 2 people, what can be done? I just wanted to create a little opportunity for All Might. Todoroki-san, let's go help All Might. It didn't take much conversation for the 2 to understand each other. Izuku took the lead and created a pistol to fire at Tamura as soon as he was within range. Shoto, who was following behind, began to radiate cold air. Please let me freeze 𝗏𝗲. As for me, I will take the hand mask. Okay. Izuku stopped running and raised his gun to aim, but Kurogiri appeared in the way. Izuku knew that this villain had the ability to create portals. If he shoots a gun, the bullet will have a chance to appear anywhere. Maybe it was his roommate, so he didn't pull the trigger. He lowered his arms as he felt the vibrations in the air. Suddenly, a familiar sound of shouting and cursing, along with an explosion, sounded out. It caught Izuku's attention completely. Get out of my way, Deku. Boom. It was Katsuki who flew in from the side and slammed a bomb at Kurogiri. before grabbing it and pushing it to the ground, which Izuku didn't know how he did. Shoto used this moment to run and stop in front of Izuku. It then spread ice and quickly froze the 𝗏𝗄 in half. Ijuru, who came the same way as Katsuki, also jumped at 𝗏𝗄, but 𝗏𝗄 was able to retreat. All Might also didn't miss out on using the opportunity the students gave him to break free from their captivity. Then they came out and stood together with the students. The warp gate was captured. It's always going to be busy like this. 𝗏𝗄 still hasn't changed his attitude despite being in a very disadvantageous situation. You were exactly as I thought. Katsuki begins to explain Kurogiri's powers and weaknesses. Only part of the body is misty. Then use the fog to cover up the fleshy part, before exploding with a slight threat. When he saw the misty figure struggling, disgrace the students like this. If anyone found out, they'd probably spit on us. You'd have to be serious. 𝗏𝗄, please release our gate. 𝗏𝗄's voice trailed off. The 𝗏𝗄 rose from the whirlpool. Frozen body parts began to break. Only Ijiro looked shocked. How can you still get up in a situation like that? It was as if the same tape had been replayed. The remaining ice had broken off to make way for muscles to grow to replace the missing pieces, before the skin quickly followed. Two amazing quirks I've never heard of before, All Might said, clutching his wound. It is certain. 𝗏𝗄 was designed to handle your full power. A good punching bag. 𝗏𝗄 boasted of his weapon's properties. As soon as 𝗏𝗄 finished recovering, it followed the orders of the master. Vanish into thin air. Only All Might saw its movement and followed to intercept it. Bang! There was a loud noise in the air as a gust of wind blew the students away in the direction of the wind. By the time everyone realized it, 𝗏𝗄 was already with Kurogiri. Katsuki moves in next to them. All Might disappeared into the distance. Behind it is a crumbling wall. In front of him, there was a trail that stretched across the floor all the way to where 𝗏𝗄 was. They immediately guessed what had happened. All Might saves Katsuki from being punched by 𝗏𝗄, but he himself had to take the punch instead. But the strength of the punch that created such a force of wind, even All Might was dragged far away. If the person who got punched wasn't All Might, he would have returned to his old home. Wilds like you wouldn't even consider saving up. All Might said with disdain. I can't help it. We must help our people. By the way, that green-headed, bush-like kid over there had also punched him hard. If it wasn't for 𝗏𝗄, I wouldn't be standing here. 𝗏𝗏 replied to All Might, before spreading his arms and starting to blurt out the line between heroes and villains, even though everyone uses violence. No matter how good the reason, violence is violence, and killing the symbol of peace will make the world aware. You're just using fancy words as an excuse. Even though you just want to kill me, you son of a bitch, All Might shot back. There is a difference between using violence to harm innocent people and using violence to protect innocent people. Oops, I got it. The students listening to the conversation were also preparing to fight in support of All Might, but was stopped by All Might raising his hand. You guys, just watch from a distance. All Might gave a thumbs up in reassurance. Then the real battle begins. All Might and 𝗏𝗄 became a blur in the air, disappear from everyone's sight and go punch each other in a world of speed. The wind generated by the collision of their fists swept away all the people in the vicinity. Hehe, I already told you that 𝗏𝗄 has shock absorption. Punching can't do anything to 𝗏𝗄, because I already know. All Might raised his fist and punched 𝗏𝗄 again. At first, 𝗏𝗄 was able to block his punches. They punched each other's fists back and forth, before starting to punch faster and faster, until they exchanged punches at each other without paying attention to defending themselves. The force of the wind from each punch made it almost impossible to stand. Neither the villains nor the hero students were able to interfere in the battle as planned. Just holding onto yourself and not being blown away by the wind is very good. Can it absorb shock? There must be some limits. All Might continued to punch without any loss of strength. Nearby trees and grass began to be uprooted. If you can withstand my 100% punch, I will hit you with even more power. 𝗏𝗄 was now starting to be pushed back. I was unable to stand and receive a punch without getting hurt again. Until finally, he was punched and flew away. All Might ran after him again, kicking, punching, and stomping on the ground. Throw it into the air. Then he grabbed his arm, swung him violently, and threw him onto the concrete floor. Villains like you guys. Do you know this word? To the other side of the limit. Plus ultra. All Might followed him down to the ground and slammed a punch into his stomach. Sends the 𝗏𝗄 soaring out of the dome like a missile. I can't play and absorb energy like in the cartoons. It would be too exaggerated. Stung until he couldn't recover. Is this the strongest man in the world? Today, these 4 hero students bear witness to the strength of the symbol of peace more than anyone else. They learned of the huge wall they would face in the future. I doubt I'll really soften. If it had been before, just 5 punches would have been enough. But this lured 200 punches. All Might's voice coming from the smoke startled them all. Is this even stronger than this? As for the remaining wills, they were helpless. 𝗏𝗄 is very upset that his own people were defeated without being able to defeat All Might. Then he mumbled like a child. All right, it's your turn now. All Might turned to the villains, prepare to go in and manage. But it stopped. Steam began to float out of his body. Shit, has it reached its limit? Everyone in the area could notice this change. But I don't understand the meaning. Except for the villains, who saw this as an opportunity. Izuku heard the villains talking and thought about All Might's injury again. Don't tell me your symptoms have relapsed. He stopped following his friends, who were about to meet other people. Then he turned to look at the villains, who were preparing to do something, and saw All Might not do anything. Midoriya, Shoto and the rest stopped walking and turned to look at Izuku. We have to help All Might, Izuku muttered. What? Did you see him punch that thing until it flew? He doesn't need help, Ijiro pointed out. There's no time. Todoroki-san, quickly build an ice wall to protect All Might. Izuku begged his classmate, who had ice powers, but the response was too slow. Damn it, I can't shoot because of the warp gate, he thought as he flowed more energy down his legs than usual. Then he soared off to attract attention and give All Might time to do something. Get away from All Might. But Willen read the situation. Hirajiri created a black whirlpool in front of Izuku, and created another one for Tamura to reach into and appear in the whirlpool in front of Izuku. I can't stop, Izuku thought as he saw a hand emerge. And I'm not at risk of getting caught by that hand. His thoughts raced quickly. Create a knife in your right hand. Then he stabbed the garden with his rough hand. Tamura screamed and pulled his hand back. Hirajiri quickly closed the whirlpool and went to check on his master. Izuku fell in front of All Might. You idiot, where did you get the knife? Tamura growled, rushing towards Izuku angrily. However, after Tamura walked out a few steps, a mysterious bullet flew into his left shoulder. Before that, several more bullets were fired at the masked villain's body until he had to stagger away and use Kurogiri's mist as a shield. I'm Ida Tenya, I'm back to help everyone. A voice introducing himself from the entrance caused everyone to turn and look. This made it possible to see many teachers standing in lines in front of the board along with the director. The villains, who had regained consciousness, began attacking in that direction. But it was completely extracted. Before the teachers counterattacked, they easily defeated the villains. Kurogiri then takes Tamura into the portal and disappears with difficulty amid 13's gravitational pull as the summoners help him to his feet. Teachers disperse to help students stranded in different zones. By order of the director, Ijiro, who was walking towards Izuku, was blocked by a wall that rose from the ground. All right, you all hurry and gather with the rest at the gate. I'll take care of All Might back to Midoriya right now. Master 𝗵𝗲 told the three young men after building a wall to cover All Might, so they followed the instructions. The cement builder sighed. At least All Might's secret was safe, even if there is one person who already knows. But it's still better than knowing everything. Izuku, seeing All Might in his skinny state, became worried and tried to get up to take a look, but was held back by an injury. Even though he didn't use enough strength to break his own leg, it was definitely painful. Thank you for helping me hide my secret, 𝗵𝗲, All Might said as he sat down. It's not necessary. Thank you for forcing yourself. Now let us do the work for you, 𝗵𝗲 said. You too. Thank you very much, young Midoriya. If it weren't for your attention, I would have finished them off. All Might turned to Izuku. And please keep this a secret. I will explain later. Yes. Izuku nodded and laid down, waiting for help. At a bar, a black spot appeared that expanded into a whirlpool. Then he released the body that belonged to the supervillain who invaded UA. Damn those damn kids. Tamura moaned as he lay on the ground. I never thought that our subordinates would lose to the students. He moaned in frustration and pain, before turning to speak to the bright TV screen. And Master, you are wrong. The peace symbol is still very strong. I wasn't wrong, the so-called teacher replied, but I was probably a little too optimistic, who thought Nama would be enough to take him down. However, it is still an advantage that they will underestimate us. But I lost. Game over. Tamura spat out blood mixed with saliva, before getting up and sitting on the chair with all his might. Calm down, please. Remember that there are lessons even in failure. As long as you learn and improve yourself, I will provide resources until you succeed. The teacher said. Tamura stopped thinking and started scratching at his neck. I understand. What you're saying is that even though we lost the battle, I still gained experience, right? That's right, and when the time is right, I will prepare Namu for you, the teacher said. Yes, next time we want more. Tamura raised the drink that Kurogiri had served to his mouth, then turned to the screen again. Our mistake this time was that we thought that All Might was the only one to worry about. Therefore, we are not interested in organizing a party. We just bring those employers with us, and I think they will be enough for the students. You see, she is learning. Take time to recuperate and think about your plans for next time, praised the teacher. By the way, there's one kid who reminds me of All Might, even though his punches were lighter than All Might's. If I didn't have Namu, I would have lost, Tamura said. Well, the teacher squeaked out of interest. Actually, I could kill All Might, but that kid suddenly rushed over and stabbed my hand with a knife. Tamura turned over to see his own hand, which had stab wounds on both the front and back. Stab it right through, you bushy head, he roared loudly. Like I said, take care of yourself, and until we meet again, goodbye, the teacher said as the TV screen went dark. Kurogiri, take me to the doctor, Tamura ordered. Before that, he was swallowed up by the darkness and disappeared. Back at USJ, Izuku is saved by a kiss from Recovery Girl. His pain instantly disappeared. It makes you able to stand up without any problems. You can go out and join your friends too. The officials have something to ask, said the elderly doctor. Before she walked over to All Might, she gave him the same kiss. As for her, she has to go to the hospital room. It's such a severe injury that it can't be treated all at once. Damn it, you're really reckless. The old woman shook her head. As for All Might, he could only listen. Thank you, Izuku said before walking towards the exit. After leaving the dome, Izuku was taken with the others. That gradually followed with a little inquiry, including providing treatment to those in need, but no one was seriously injured and required special treatment. During the bus ride back to the main classroom building, people who were sent to simulate various disaster zones. We talked about the experiences we had encountered. It makes it possible to know what each person has encountered. With only Yuka, Leela doesn't reveal her location. But no one asked either. As for the people who weren't taken anywhere, it was because they were able to escape from the Black Mist's radius in time. But he had to deal with villains who couldn't attack normally. When returning to the school building, each of them went to change clothes and pack up their things to go home, as the rest of the day's lessons were cancelled. After the villain invasion, UA School has closed for one day to improve its security system. Then classes opened the next day. Eraserhead entered the room to start homeroom in the morning with his face covered in bandages. It creates doubt among the students that people like this still come to work, and also respects the care and attention given to duties. Don't worry about me. You guys have something important to know, that the fight isn't over yet. Fight? Don't tell me. Villain invasion. A test? Everyone in the room made various guesses from their homeroom teacher's words. Eraserhead shook his head. Not both. What I'm telling you is the UA sports event that's approaching. As good as a high school. Everyone was excited about this topic. Some people did not know the importance of this work, but the homeroom teacher told them about its importance. Because the UA Sports Festival is a big annual event that receives a lot of attention, at a level comparable to the Olympics before its popularity dropped. And for students who perform well, there will be a professional hero who will send them a request for an internship. If we understand each other, let's go prepare. Only 2 more weeks. There are only 3 opportunities throughout the study. If you want to be a hero, then focus and give it your all. Plus ultra. When they finished talking about what needed to be said, Eraserhead walked out of the room to let the teacher who was teaching the next class enter. After finishing Professor 𝗵𝗲𝗄's modern literature class, which is the last subject of the morning session, the students gathered together to talk about the upcoming sports event. Surprisingly, 𝗂𝗂 was the liveliest. Let's do our best. Everyone. 𝗂𝗂 said this and smiled with a dark expression. Why does your Raka look different? Mina asked. I think so, Kiro, Tsuyu said after slapping Minoru's face with his tongue, who was trying to say something. Her character is probably erratic. Ijuru replied with uncertainty as he raised his hand to 𝗂𝗂's eyes. Meanwhile, Izuku walked to the theater with 𝗂𝗂 and Tenya. They had a discussion about why they became heroes. Because everyone in my family is a hero, and I want to be like an older brother who helps people, Tenya said of his reason. As for me, I have All Might as my inspiration. I want to help people who are struggling with a smile, Izuku said. I would like to say something like, it's nothing anymore, even though I know I can't be as strong as All Might. The other 2 tried to hold back their laughter at Izuku's imitation of All Might. When listening to the reasons of the 2 friends, 𝗂𝗂 was embarrassed to tell her reasons, but she decided to speak out. It would be embarrassing. But I want to be a hero for the money. To help parents. She then explained that her parents worked as construction contractors, but there was hardly any work coming in, so there were financial problems. She wants to help because her quirk is useful in this field, but her parents also want her to follow her dreams. Then I will be a hero to help people and earn money for my parents. 𝗂𝗂 had a determined expression on her face as she spoke. No shame, you're Raka. I accept your efforts, Tenya announced, moving his arms and hands like a robot. I understand your reasoning. Izuku nodded. Just when they were about to talk about something else to change the atmosphere, All Might, in his suit, rushed out of the corner. Stay here, young Midoriya. The symbol of peace lifted up the packed lunch bag and asked with a serious expression, amidst the shock of the 3 hero students, would you care to come eat with me? 𝗂𝗂 spat out water from her mouth. It's like a young girl inviting you to eat. Izuku knew why All Might wanted to talk to him, but an invitation like this was unexpected. You guys go first. Don't wait for me, Izuku told his friend, who had not yet recovered from his shock, before walking with All Might. With this, Tenya and 𝗂𝗂 continued walking towards the cafeteria, which is still confusing. Why did he invite Midoriya-kun to eat? Ochako said this while waiting in line with Tenya to buy food. I heard he jumped in to help All Might, Tenya told the gravity woman. I would like to thank you. By the way, Midoriya-kun is very powerful. All might be interested in him, Ochako said without thinking. Unbeknownst to them, one person took these words to heart. In terms of who was mentioned, there was also discussion. After Izuku finished eating Might's boxed lunch, All Might revealed his true form and explained why he had to be like this. To make Izuku understand the importance of secrets, it was because of the villain from 6 years ago. And because they were afraid it would cause chaos, they concealed it from the public. So this is your true form, Izuku said after hearing the story and seeing All Might's thin body before muttering. It's just as I thought. What do you mean? All Might asked. I'm not sure if you remember me or not, but almost a year ago, you saved me from the villain clone, Izuku said. I remember that villain, but I'm sorry I didn't remember you. All Might shook his head. Izuku didn't think much of it because All Might helped many people every day. This makes it impossible to remember everyone. At that time, I came in contact with you and used my quirk to analyze your body. Even if it wasn't intentional, I'm sorry for what I did. Izuku looked down and looked up. So I found out you had an injury. Then I started researching battles that could cause this, but couldn't find one. The closest one was the toxic chainsaw, because from then on, your working hours decreased. But from history, it is impossible for him to do that to you. Yes, that punk really beat me, All Might admitted. Izuku then continued. And because your working hours start to decrease noticeably, so you came to work at UA to cover up. All I can think of is that you are recovering or preparing to retire. But I never thought it would be this heavy. He never really thought about it. All Might's body would be so emaciated that he would have to transform to hide. After speaking, silence enveloped the entire room. All Might sighed, then began to speak. I admit that you are indeed very smart. Who can think about these things? And yes, I'm retiring. Can you see how bad my injury is? Can't be cured. The time gradually decreased. There will come a day when I won't be able to use my powers. Even though Izuku had prepared himself, when he heard it from All Might's own mouth, it shocked him to the point where he couldn't do anything. All Might, in his memories, was an invincible and invulnerable man. I know what you're thinking, young man, but I am still human and invulnerable, All Might said, as if reading Izuku's thoughts. I am sorry you had to find out this and bear it. It's okay, Izuku said, waving his hand rapidly. I have nothing to say. Go back to class, All Might said, preparing to get up and leave as well. Wait a minute, Izuku called, and he handed All Might a notebook and pen. By opening the page with his analysis, please sign for me. All Might received the notebook and pen in surprise. Do you carry a notebook with you all the time? I can make one, Izuku answered sheepishly. The number 1 hero shook his head and scribbled his signature on the blank space. All right, huh. All Might was about to return the book but was stopped when he saw his own quirk written in it. Type, emitter, collector ability, creating and storing energy to increase strength. What does this mean, young man? He asked the owner of the book, who pointed out what he wanted him to see. Oh, I wrote about the possibility of your quirk. Because, as you've given interviews, there's never been a time when you've said it so plainly, Izuku replied. It's really close, All Might admitted to the young man's guess. What makes you think it is like that? It's because when I analyzed your body, I learned more than just the wound, Izuku reasoned. He continued speaking, not caring that All Might was sweating and feeling anxious. Even for a short period of time, I saw an enormous amount of energy flowing through your body. So I think that might be the source of its strength. So I tried to follow this by spreading the energy throughout my body. Because my quirk also has energy accumulation. And as a result, I was able to strengthen myself. So I wrote it down. But from today's reveal, transformation must be added as well. Perhaps this is why no one knows about your personal life. Because you can transform when you're not on duty. Izuku stopped talking when he saw the confused and astonished expressions in his audience. Sorry, when it comes to analysis, I tend to get carried away by excitement. It's okay, young man. Besides, she said her quirk is like this. Maybe I can teach you some secrets, All Might said. Really? Izuku's eyes lit up with excitement. Of course, I am your teacher after all. It's only natural to give advice, All Might said with confidence. But soon, blood came out, making Izuku scream. Are you sure something's wrong? Izuku asked worriedly. I'm used to it, All Might replied dismissively. Then excuse me first, Izuku said, saying goodbye, and he walked back to the classroom with a thoughtful expression on his face, because he has a lot to think about. After the last class of the day ended, everyone was prepared to go home. But then they started hearing noises outside the classroom door. Unfortunately for the rest, Katsuki was the first to reach the door. As soon as the door was opened, it revealed a group of students from other rooms all standing together. There are so many people. Why have you come here? Katsuki just looked annoyed at the crowd in front of him. Apparently, these extras came to observe us. Very annoying. Without hesitation, the hot-headed, straw-haired student began walking. but she was stopped by a purple-haired student who looked sleep-deprived. I was just going to come and look, but I didn't think they would be so cocky like this. So is there a problem? Katsuki asked. I'm a little disappointed. Please weigh it. You probably know that there are many people who do not pass the entrance exam for the hero branch, including myself, the purple-haired student said. What do you want to say? Katsuki asked again. Well, what I'm trying to say is that this sports event isn't just a place to show off the skills of the hero branch masters, but those of us from other branches also have the opportunity to be considered for transfer into the hero branch. Do you think you're just here to observe? No, we have come to declare war, the same student announced. Everyone in class was shocked at the challenge from students from different courses. They didn't know how to respond. But then another voice spoke up. The class members will be happy. I myself am interested. It was the voice of a student with brushed blonde hair who walked through the crowd. Remember, Class B is superior to you. Before he could finish speaking, he mysteriously fell to the floor. Sorry, we don't have any problems with Class A. A newcomer's voice sounded. It's a woman with orange hair. She walked in and dragged the blonde-haired student back out. There was silence, but it was Katsuki who ruined it by walking away, by hitting the purple-haired student's shoulder as well. Whatever you want to say, just say it. How can I be number one? The conversation started to return to normal. Damn, can't he just bear the thought of not getting into trouble with anyone? Minoru complained. Honest and truly a man. Ijuru tried to hold back tears of joy. That's too bad. No matter how you look at it, they're clearly fighting each other, Denki hissed at his friend. Izuku shook his head at Katsuki's actions, before walking and stopping in front of the crowd. I don't know what you guys thought of us all standing here, but could you please step aside or disperse? Because it blocks us. Is it true that not everyone is free? Hearing this, the crowd really began to disperse. He really managed to be the vice leader of the class, Midoriya. You yourself are a very manly man. That's amazing, Midoriya-kun. And because of this, Izuku received praise from his friends. Then let's go back. Izuku turned to Ochako and Tenya. Afternoons for 2 weeks were given free of charge to the hero students to practice with each other for their sports event. UA has various facilities, including a gymnasium, swimming pool, fitness center, miniature city, and even the school's forest area. If you want it anywhere, just inform the homeroom teacher. Of course, students from other fields can request it as well, as it is school property. Every student has the right to use it. As for Izuku's training, in addition to exercising to strengthen your muscles, which you already do regularly, he will focus on summoning and wielding various weapons that have not yet been mastered over and over to increase aptitude and familiarity. And he was the equipment tester for Mei, where he vowed to never wear that iron skeleton armor again after it twisted his body to the point of breaking. Damn it, 𝗧𝗵𝗲, don't bring the thing near me again. Izuku yelled at the engineering girl, backing away from the metal man. Hey, don't worry, I fixed the program this time. Mei reassured her. Look at this first. She picked up the button and pressed it. The skeleton suit then began to move in a more fluid manner than before. It took her a few days to improve it. Izuku looked on in shock. However, the fluid movement only lasted for a moment before it began to move strangely, and soon it exploded. Okay, that's as good as you are. More than half of the things she created ended in explosions, Izuku thought. Oh no, my child. Mei groaned. Izuku shook his head and spoke. I'm sorry, I have an appointment. With that, he hurried out of the research room immediately, followed by the grumbling sound of the power loader. Somewhere in the forest area of the school, Izuku, in his gym clothes, meets with All Might to learn techniques from the #1 hero, young Midoriya. You try using as much power as you can. All Might spoke while in his true form. Yes, Izuku nodded and activated the power-up. Green lightning appeared to erupt all over his body as a gentle wind blew out. About 10% of one for all. All Might thought before asking, is this the end? Izuku nodded. If it's any more than this, my body will start to hurt until it's difficult to move and even cause physical harm. Then try increasing your strength as much as your body can handle without harming yourself. All Might said. Izuku immediately complied with the request. He drew out more power and sent it throughout his body. The wind and lightning around him became more violent. But of course, using more power comes with a cost. And it takes a lot of concentration to endure the intense pain as the level of power increases. Until it reaches a level where it is thought that the body's limits have been reached, he stopped increasing his energy and instead held it back so that it wouldn't disappear. This is my highest score. All Might. It took Izuku a lot of effort to get the words out. This is equivalent to my 20%, and he's used it more. All Might secretly thought in shock. Well done, young man. Then unleash your attack, the #1 hero said as he made a punching motion. Hearing that, Izuku didn't hold back. He cocked his fist behind his back, before pulling the arm back. As soon as he threw his punch, a gust of wind suddenly shot out of his fist towards the forest and blew everything along. When the gusts of wind subsided, a long path of crushed and broken trees was revealed. You did well, young Midoriya. All Might praised. "Thank you," Izuku said, holding onto his right arm. His power-up mode has been cancelled, and the body feels pain. "This is the technique I will teach. Actually, you did it yourself. But as you can see, she immediately lost her ability to fight, then or now," All Might pointed out. "Yes," Izuku admitted, thinking back to the fight with Katsuki that caused him to break his arm. "I couldn't move well after doing it. That's something that needs to be improved." She had to make herself able to fire the air pressure more than once without losing her power or breaking her arm. If she succeeds, she will have a ranged attack in her arsenal, All Might told the target of this training. Izuku nodded. "But I still can't figure out how to fix it. It's not a problem using quirk, but it was his own body that was not strong enough. Or should he increase his exercise level?" All Might, seeing Izuku thinking, decided to give him a hint. "I don't use my maximum power all the time." After listening to All Might without realizing it, Izuku narrowed his eyes and began expressing his thoughts in a mumbling form. Yes, it makes sense that All Might would keep his power under control. Otherwise, his every movement would create wind and destroy everything. Got it. If we wield this level of power every time we shoot air pressure, we won't be able to move, so what we have to do is... Izuku's eyes widened as he realized this. "Have you thought of it yet? You have a quick head," All Might praised. "Thank you, I know. If I can't always use this level of power, then all you have to do is use it when attacking." Izuku said it excitedly. "And move on immediately. Change from gathering energy in anticipation of an attack to suddenly summoning it when attacking. And only do the arm part. It will reduce the burden that the body has to bear. It's like running your hand through hot water instead of soaking it." "I'm impressed by your comparison, but it's easy to say or think. Instantly increasing or decreasing power requires extremely delicate control," All Might said. "Yes, well, first of all," Izuku called out using a normal power level enhancement. "Then increase the energy to the limit. Remember it. Then reduce the energy to normal levels." Before he took a deep breath, he then punched out and quickly increased energy throughout his body. However, after the punch was thrown, there was only a lighter force of wind than intended. "It only causes the tree to lean slightly. We increased our power too slowly," he thought and tried again. This time, the trees in the front row were leaning more than before. The green-haired boy sighed and did the same. Izuku was able to succeed the 9th time. Long lines of trees were uprooted. He hopes this won't be a problem with the school. However, he frowned at his own work. It seems that this task is really not easy. To suddenly pull up energy while still wielding the same power. Still, this is just standing still. And threw a punch, not while moving the whole body, he thought as he sat down to rest. "Let's just say it's been enough for a day now. It seems like your body is already tired. It is true that repetition will help you develop quickly, but forcing it too much is not good. And don't forget to go find the recovery girl," All Might advised after noticing Izuku's expression. "Yes, do you have any secrets to altering your energy?" Izuku nodded and asked. "No, I can use all my energy without my body being fine. So you can control it as you wish. But if there's anything I can recommend, it's my senses. I use my senses to control my powers. Just picture it in my head, and I can do it. And when you do it repeatedly, it will get better," All Might said. "He's a natural with his power. Maybe if we knew how to use energy from the beginning, we might as well not have to face the problem we are," Izuku secretly thought. After all, he hadn't even been able to use the energy he had stored up in this form for less than a year. It's different from people who have used it their whole life as if it were a part of their body. "I think you're thinking too much, young Midoriya," All Might said. Izuku looked up at All Might questioningly, as if to ask what his trainer meant. All Might then spoke again. "Of course, always thinking is a good thing. But sometimes we just have to follow our instincts." The number 1 hero transformed into a muscular body and acted like he threw a punch. "Clear your head." Then he clenched his fist and punched out, "Ack," before coughing up blood and returning to his true form. "All Might." Izuku cried out in shock and quickly got up to check on his instructor. "I'm fine," All Might dismissed, wiping the blood from his mouth. "Are you sure?" Izuku said it in disbelief, because the words coming out of the number 1 hero's mouth and the actual reality were too different. "Of course, because when fighting the Namu, I used that much power for the first time since my injury. Why time is even less. This is what happens when you force it," the strongest man in the world explained. Izuku just kept quiet. He had words to say but decided it was better to keep them to himself. Before saying goodbye to All Might to go find Recover Girl. After being healed, he went straight home. The next day, Izuku continued the same thing. Try to increase the energy to match the punch, but it's not very good. Until finally, he lost control and increased his energy to a point where his body couldn't handle it, which caused his arm to explode. "Damn it, you broke your own arm again," Recovery Girl said in dissatisfaction while tending the injured arm. During practice, I lost control a bit," Izuku corrected himself. "Serious injuries in a row like this, even though I can cure it, it will have negative effects in the long run. So be careful if you don't want to end your hero career before it even starts, the old nurse warned. I'll be careful, the young man said. She is very similar to Toshi. In terms of recklessness, Recovery Girl mused. Yes, nothing, just thinking about old times, you can go now. Recovery Girl declined. Yes, thank you for taking care of me. It had been 3 days since Izuku had trained with All Might, but he still couldn't shoot the air pressure effectively. Or maybe I'm really thinking too much. Izuku stopped his movements to reflect and remember the past. Mom, how can I use my quirk well? I can't help people if I have to think for a long time about what to create, little Izuku asked his mother. Izuku, I don't really understand your quirk, but the quirk is a part of the body. Don't use your head to think about what to do, but use your heart to control it. Mom always does that, 𝐭 replied, placing a hand on her heart. Using your heart to control. Izuku tilted his head because he didn't understand. Yes, when you want to. What object must you pull? Mom just held out her hand to that thing. With desire, that thing will float to mother, 𝐭 explained. This means that if I want to create something, I just think about it like that. Izuku tried to understand. Yes, instead of thinking about what you need to do to make things, you just have to imagine it and take it out, 𝐭 told her child. Midoriya, little Midoriya. Why? Yes, Izuku gasped at All Might's call. It makes him very disconnected from the flashback. You seem a bit lost, All Might asked. Sorry, I was thinking of something, Izuku replied, scratching his head. But he couldn't help but feel relieved. Maybe it was because he had already thought of the answer to the problem. All that is left is to do. If you can't do it with your arms, maybe you should start with something small. Like, All Might was giving advice. But his words were cut off by the roar of the wind, along with a long area of forest being uprooted. I did it, All Might, Izuku said excitedly as green electricity continued to dance throughout his body. To the surprise of the #1 hero, he did it faster than I thought. This kid definitely has talent, All Might thought as he looked at the scene. Even though I just said that it is not easy to instantly increase or decrease power, she succeeded in 3 days. I really don't know what to say, All Might said, along with thinking in his mind. Teacher, will you have this kind of knowledge when you see me? One for All can be used to its fullest potential immediately without any problems. Probably because I used to use quirk in the beginning. But before, I used a lot of thought to control my energy instead of giving it to intuition, like you said, because I was afraid of the repercussions. It's like trying to do something you're not good at. Or is the water going against the current? Izuku bowed his head and groaned as he held his chin. And he didn't notice how All Might rolled his eyes. To be honest, I'm amazed by her abilities. All Might except. If he hadn't been told about the youth's quirk in front of him, he probably thought that this kid had one for all. It was strange that the energy accumulated over just 10 years could be so powerful. And that's not even all of it. The yellow-haired hero sighed. In the end, the new generation will always be better than the old generation, right? One for All is living proof of this statement. The more power is passed on, the more power will be gained. Just like any other quirk, it will become stronger and stronger with each generation, as the quirk singularity theory suggests. And he's a great fit for One for All. The #1 hero looked at Izuku with admiration. He had the idea that if he could handle energy perfectly, dealing with One for All should also be easy. Perhaps I should choose young Midoriya as my successor. But that's a story for another time. All Might shook his head to dispel his thoughts. Okay, since you did it quickly, I will add a special lesson. Izuku had a strange feeling. With the smile of the peace symbol, in areas far away, Katsuki has been searching for ways to improve his quirk usage. I can't rely on brute strength to defeat Deku. There must be a special move to create an opportunity to attack. Katsuki thought as he periodically lit the explosives on his hand, before smiling after looking at his own hands. In a model city among many buildings, Midoriya is outstanding in his strength, like All Might, so I have to release the ice faster. Shoto thought and shot out an ice wave that froze the entire building. First, walk to defrost and repeat the same steps. It has to be soon in another quiet forest area. Momo was reading a book while eating a lot of dessert with a serious expression. With various things, it burst out of her flesh with a flash of light. Midoriya-san can create objects much faster than I can. I also have to do it faster. Back to Izuku, who was now lying down and looking at the sky with thoughts of wanting to be a cloud. His body was covered with scrapes and torn clothes, with the surrounding environment in ruins in the background. How did this happen? Oh, that's right, Izuku thought, remembering All Might's suspicious smile. Fighting ... with you, Izuku said to All Might after being brought to the miniature city. Yes, young Midoriya, since she was able to use that technique. That doesn't mean it's perfect. Practicing and actually fighting are different, so you must fight me. All Might in his hero gear was announced. Izuku cried out in shock. Fighting will make you see your flaws more and know where to fix them. It's true that she was able to improve while interning with other heroes, but wouldn't it be better to do it with an expert like me? All Might be explained. Hearing that, Izuku thought as well. What All Might said was true. He was best able to learn air pressure shooting from All Might, because All Might is the only one who can do it. But I feel like I would take advantage of others too much. He dared to bet that the majority of people wished to replace his position right now. Even Katsuki would scream and explode with jealousy that he was getting personal instruction and training with All Might. Of course, but you must not forget that our quirks are similar. I can't really teach this to anyone, aside from you and people with similar quirks, which I haven't found yet, so don't feel guilty about receiving tutoring, All Might said, before adding, also, almost every apprentice hero receives tutoring from a similar hero, whether in personality or power. Yes, Izuku admitting that All Might had a point. So, in order not to waste time, let's get started. All Might said it casually, but it puts a lot of pressure on the other party. Izuku flowed energy through his body as he watched All Might jump back several blocks away. He closed his eyes to clear his thoughts. Before opening his eyes, he was met with a unique cry. Smash! He then remembered how he had been thrown around, whether it was from a direct punch or a compressed air blow. It didn't make any difference since he couldn't resist them. However, in this beating, Izuku couldn't just suffer the pain and results of the air pressure shot in a real situation, but he also sees ways to improve his own movement, predicting future events in battle, dodging, and more. It could be said that being beaten by a hero today had taught him many things. What's wrong? Have you given up yet, young Midoriya? All Might asked, jogging not far away. Izuku suppressed the pain and stood up to face the peace symbol with a smile. You can do this all day. All Might smiled and raised his arms. Without hesitation, Izuku pulled his right arm behind his back. Then punch out and speak loudly, which is the name of this move. Air Cannon. A few days before the sports day, Izuku was called to the support department. Okay, so what will you tell me? Izuku asked. Mei pulled away from her child and walked over to pick up a pair of gloves that were on the stand. Your suit will be finished a little later than scheduled due to a lack of materials, but it shouldn't be until next week. So in the meantime, I made gloves first from the materials I had. After speaking, she handed over the black gloves. It absorbs shock, allowing you to use such power that you could break your own arm without any problems. And it might go up 2 to 3 times. Seriously, Izuku said, because it looks incredible. Of course my child can. Mei confirmed. It won't explode, right? He asked for reassurance. Sure. Mei nodded her head without changing her expression. Katsum, he chided again. I felt that the inventor had not yet told the full story of what she had created. If you use more power than when you broke your arm, it will last 2 or 3 times. It depends on the severity of the repercussions, Mei explains. Thank you. In the athletes' room, everyone was doing their own activities, waiting for the time to be called down to the field, whether it was meditation, small talk, or Midoriya. A half-white, half-red-haired boy said in front of the owner of the green hair. Make everyone in the room pay attention. What's up, Todoroki-san? Izuku asked. Considering all your abilities, you are definitely a strong person. However, I think I'm stronger than you, Shoto said honestly. However, All Might is interested in you. I don't know why, Shoto said, cutting Izuku off. Before it was announced, but I will beat you. Hero number 2's son's announcement of his status caused the people in the room to be even more shocked than having someone from the general branch declare war. Only Katsuki looked annoyed. Oh, a war between the strongest people in the room. Denki said it without thinking. Hey guys, why are you fighting among yourself? We're friends. Ijiru protested and tried to touch Shoto's shoulder, but Shoto rudely slapped his hand away. Before continuing in a cold voice, I'm not here to play with anyone. Everyone felt uncomfortable with this expression. While the atmosphere is coming, Todoroki, there is no doubt that you are definitely strong. You can freeze an entire building in the blink of an eye. That's on another level with normal students, Izuku said calmly, and looked at the white-haired person with determination in his eyes. All right, I accept the challenge, but don't lose to anyone first. Every student in the room was excited by the talk of the 2 strong men in the room, minus Katsuki, who was silently complaining to himself. It's about killing and defeating all the supporting characters. Minoru was the only person in the room who noticed the dangerous behavior and immediately backed away. All students can now come individually to the field. An announcement over the loudspeaker caught everyone's attention. Are you guys finished talking? Because I will also say that it doesn't matter who wins, because I will be the one who will stand on top at the end of this job. Katsuki growled at the 2. Then she walked out of the room before anyone else. The rest soon followed. During this time, there was no discussion. Until finally, they all walked onto the field with other students and were greeted by Present Mike, the most fun sports event in the country, where training heroes compete against each other to compete for first place. UA Sports Festival. Ready, go. The sounds of fun and excitement can be heard throughout the stands at this once-a-year sports event. And if I were to guess, everyone is waiting to see their performance, right? Rookie, who has to face the real villain and survive? The future of heroes. Give them some voice. Hero Course, Year 1, Room A. Another cheer sounded as the students of Class A walked out of the tunnel and appeared on the big screen. Then it was an announcement to the rest of the room. But it's so simple that it can be viewed as biased. And it's not wrong, which caused 𝗏𝗵𝐴 to be repulsed by other rooms. The stadium area is now filled with first-year students from all fields of study. Everyone was excited by the large number of viewers. And soon, a young hero walked onto the stage. She dressed so sexily that it made some people blush with embarrassment. And some people wonder if it's appropriate to be a caregiver to a high school student. That girl is Midnight, a UA professional hero and teacher. Alright, please invite the representative of the contestants to come up and say something. Midoriya Izuku of Class 1A. Midnight announced. Countless eyes stared at the green-haired teen. Izuku sucked in a breath and closed his eyes for a moment, before exhaling and opening his eyes. Then he walked onto the stage with a calm expression, amidst the roar of the crowd. I'm pleased to be a class representative, Izuku said into the microphone, looking around. I think everyone expected to win this event. Whatever the reason, at the end of the day, it is a sporting event. Everyone should enjoy it. Good luck to everyone. Thank you. Izuku finished speaking and bowed slightly. Then he walked off the stage amid the applause of the entire stadium. Not even students from other classes were excluded. Very well said, Midoriya-kun. Ochako congratulated him. As worthy of representing the class, Tenya said, waving his hand stiffly. I don't even want to think about what it would have been like if Bakugo had spoken, Minoru said softly. Why do I say so, ballhead? Katsuki growled at the smaller man. You see, if you talk, I'm sure the other rooms will hate us even more, Minoru said tremblingly as he hid behind Mizo's legs. That is a wonderful statement, but we won't waste any more time. The first event of this year's sports festival is. Midnight said this and turned towards the rapidly changing screen, before stopping and revealing the name of the activity, Obstacle Running Race, or the original name, Death Run. The cheers of the audience echoed throughout the stands. Is that really a name that should be used at a sports event? There was a loud murmur from the group of competitors. How did he change his name? Another voice replied. Midnight then explained the competition this time. Only the first 40 people will advance to the next round. With a total distance of 4 kilometers, the rules were simple. As long as they stayed on the track, they could do whatever they wanted. But don't be too harsh. For those who want to show off their stuff, this is their time. The contestants cheered and gathered in front of the exit. The 3 lights began to go out one by one. As everyone was ready to run out, Izuku thought back. He remarked upon seeing how small the exit was compared to the number of contestants. Everyone is stuck at the entrance. He quickly realized the problem. The last red light is about to go out. Are you ready for a run? Because it's about to start. Present Mike shouts through the speaker. Izuku summoned a power-up and waited. Everyone was prepared and focused on the last fire. Go. As soon as Midnight landed, the students rushed towards the exit, causing chaos in the tunnel, just as Izuku had thought. And because of that, he was spared from being frozen by Endeavor's sun. But there were many people who were able to escape from the ice in time as well. When he saw that the situation had calmed down, Izuku started to move. He jumped back and forth between the 2 walls of the tunnel. In addition to eliminating the need to slow down due to obstacles, he also increases his speed with each jump. Finally, Izuku reached the end of the tunnel, and his accumulated speed sent him hurtling past many people struggling to balance on the ice. Izuku fell to the ground. Then keep running until you pass the first curve. Just to stop. Thinking to myself, he knew that he could definitely catch up to those in front of him if he put in all his effort. But he didn't have to. It is well known that sports events require more than one competition. He wasn't sure how long he would have time off. But from what I've seen every year, the final match will be a one-on-one battle. Therefore, he had to conserve as much energy as possible. What should I do to win with the least effort? And then Izuku smiled, thinking of the highlights of the school that his homeroom teacher had said, uniqueness, and what Midnight said before the match started, free to do anything, as long as it is on track. Izuku turned to look at the forest behind the wall. He remembered from the map that on the other side of the forest was also a running track, and it is also the entrance to the finish line. If your feet don't touch the floor, you're not yet off the treadmill. A crazy thought popped up in Izuku's head. If someone like Katsuki could fly through the air without breaking the law, whatever he does should be the same. This way, he doesn't have to compete with others and waste time and energy. In the end, it's never too late to show off your talent in the final round. Izuku, thinking this way, started running in the opposite direction with the others, ignoring the many surprised looks on his face, until, near the wall, Izuku stopped running. He channeled more energy into his legs, before shrinking down and then jumping up. It was like a spring being ejected. All of that force sent the bright youth flying through the air and across the forest that was blocking the 2 tracks, before he later fell to the ground. I rolled on the ground for a while and then was able to get up. Then he continued running and entered the tunnel to the finish line, much to everyone's amazement. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the entire stadium fell into silence, because no one expected such a thing to happen. Even the teachers who were watching "What are you doing to her?" Midnight, who had not yet left the stage, decided to ask the first finisher. "You said you were free to do anything as long as you stayed on the treadmill, and my feet have never stepped on any surface other than the treadmill. So I thought there would be no problem flying over the obstacles, because the forest is also an obstacle," Izuku said, smiling at Midnight, and his voice could be heard throughout the stadium as the microphone was still on. What is this, Eraserhead? How devious are your students?" Present Mike cried out loudly. Midoriya is right. He looks at the situation and makes reasonable choices. Why waste time and effort when there is a more economical route to both? But the results are the same, Eraserhead said in a tired voice. Fortunately, the director went to watch the third-year competition. Otherwise, he would have definitely seen a creature that was a mixture of many animals laughing hysterically while sipping coffee. Just the fact that he had to sit in a room with the most talkative person in the school was more than enough. "That's it, and number 1 belongs to Midoriya Izuku, hero course," Midnight announced. The crowd made noises of confusion, both cheering and cheering. Some people don't want to accept this kind of method because it doesn't seem like a hero, not flashy in the way desired, as opposed to the hero agencies, who seem to be very interested in the quirk's creativity and abilities. Business students who did not compete talked about the value of this troubled child. "What do you think of Midoriya? He didn't show his full strength. Therefore, his current value is not very high. However, it's another matter for those who get first place in the entrance exam. Maybe in the second and third rounds we can assess his true value." The business students nodded at their colleagues' words. "They never change," was the thought of one hero who overheard the business students talking. "Shit, that bastard. You're so crafty," Katsuki growled before increasing the frequency and intensity of his blasts to make him fly faster. "This is not the time to save hard. The second one must be mine," 𝗬𝗪 thought as he created a path in the ice and slid quickly. "Midoriya-san, do you play like this? I need to boost my engine a bit." Momo quit running and started building an electric skateboard. "That's some really cool outside-the-box thinking, my test assistant." They laughed. "Definitely, class A guys like this are clearly cheating." The iron-bodied person from Class B roared out. Everyone was now aroused by Izuku's actions, causing them to hurry even more than before. As a result, the competition will become more intense. The competition still continues. Viewers were thrilled by the contestants' quirks that were used to overcome the obstacles that appeared, including destroying robots crossing the ravine and running through a field of bombs. And it is certain that Izuku is keeping an eye on everyone's quirks. They are all competitors in the next round. Knowing what you will face is a form of preparation. You can also add information to the notebook. "Oh, what is that? Why were they carrying a purple-headed person like that?" The ability to enter the shadows is really cool. He can use other people's quirks as well. Copying. That girl can release mushroom spores, so this zooms in on the object. There are also separate body parts. How does it work? Can you move your body without connecting to nerves? There are only interesting quirks. Midnight watched in horror at the sound of Izuku's murmuring storm. Luckily, she had turned off the microphone. Otherwise, the whole country, if not the entire world, would have the same experience as her. And the last person has come through. Izuku looked at the first 41 competitors to cross the finish line, some of them looking relaxed, some of them breathless. However, there was no longer time to rest. Midnight immediately announced the second round. "It's a headband competition. Form a team of 2 to 4 people. Then compete for other teams' headbands to collect points for advancing to the next round. But there are only 4 teams with the highest scores. And just like in the first round, everyone is given the opportunity to use quirk fully. But if you harm others too much, you will be disqualified. An additional rule is that the rider's feet must not touch the ground and not leave the marked area of the field." Before the team was drawn, each person's score also appeared along with Midnight's description. Increases by 5 points according to rank, starting with the last person with 5 points. Everyone had started thinking about their scores even before the announcement on the screen. "Okay, it's just simple math, increments of 5 points. We were ranked number 1 out of 42. I must have 210 points." Izuku quickly calculated his score without needing to look at the score on the screen. But Midnight smiled sadistically. "That's not even close, Midoriya. First place is a little special, because he will have 10 million points." After Midnight's announcement, the 41 contestants also stared at Izuku with predatory eyes. Their needs are one and the same. Want to get 8-figure points for your own team? Either way, that means that with 10 million points, winning this round is completely guaranteed. A voice was loud enough for everyone here to hear. "Of course." Midnight nodded and continued to announce. "Whoever has 10 million points in their possession until the time expires will pass, without any problem. Now it's time to create your own team. You only have 15 minutes. As soon as midnight started, the timer everyone dispersed to find teams. The second and third places are very fragrant, as opposed to number 1, where people only look at you but don't approach you. Because with that many scores, it will make every team a target. And snatching points at the last second is better than having to protect them for the entire competition. Shit got played until it was worthy of UA. However, Izuku was still able to smile. He had an idea of how to get through this situation. All that was left was to gather the team members he had in mind. After team creation, time expires. Headbands that included the scores of all the team members were also distributed to different teams. Izuku's team, besides him, consisted of Momo, Ochako, and Mei, which wasn't exactly what he expected. However, it is considered usable. His original goal was to get 𝗔𝗵𝗲's younger brother to take the lead and use his speed to evade the rest, but 𝗏𝗏 had already reached out when he went to Momo. Ochako plans to join his team. And the last one is Mei. Artifacts, or what she called children, were no different from having additional quirks. They discussed the meeting like any other team, waiting for the time. I will lead the way. My power-up abilities would be more useful as a rider, Izuku offered, starting to divide up the work among the girls. Uraraka was on the right. Her ability to nullify gravity would be very useful when combined with Hatsume's jet. On the left to Hatsume, it's time to show off her equipment. Yaoyorozu will be the rider. This is because her object creation ability requires a lot of concentration to bring out its full potential. Does anyone have any other ideas? Everyone on the team shook their heads, because Izuku's positioning made sense. Then it was a plan to bring us victory. When the preparation time was over, all teams were arranged to stand outside the field and wait for the announcement. And you can start. Midnight lands on the whip again. The start signal sounded. All teams then ran onto the field, and they all head toward the team with the most points. They are both launching attacks and running straight at them. As I thought. All right, plan A, Izuku said. Everyone on the team nodded in unison. Ochako uses her quirk on Momo and Izuku. Momo presses a button to activate the jetpack on her back and Ochako's propeller-equipped shoes. This allowed their team to take to the skies and dodge most of the attacks. Only the Shadow Bird, Jack, and Vine followed up, but it's not high enough. They soon dropped to the ground in a secluded area. But as soon as they landed, 2 more teams rushed towards them. Minoru's team transforms into armored tanks using glue balls as bullets, and the other team were people from Room B who were able to make the ground liquefy, so they had to take off again, to meet Katsuki, who flew in. What? You're so high, you bastards. However, Momo immediately uses her harpoon gun and shoots it at Katsuki. The tip of the harpoon split into a net and trapped the fang-haired person. But before Katsuki could fall, he was pulled back by his own team. Izuku's team lands safely, but in exchange for broken propeller shoes and a jetpack ready to return to its old home, according to the 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Damn, this is clearly escaping an ice explosion. Izuku muttered as he saw that Shoto's team was in front of them, and there were less than 10 minutes left. I can't let you escape. It's time to take care of you, Shoto said in a cold voice. It looks like it's time to use that plan, Momo said when she saw the situation starting to get bad. Go ahead. Izuku approved it without hesitation. Momo quickly untied her headband and took off her jetpack. She tied it together. Before pressing the button, the jetpack flew away with 10 million points. Everyone except his teammates were shocked. I didn't expect this to happen. What is this? Yaoyorozu suddenly threw away 10 million points. Present Mike cried out. It's a very clever strategy. You left out anything that would make yourself a target. Eraserhead followed up. But it would also be suicide if they don't have enough points to pass. The teams now all headed in the direction the jetpack was flying. Not even Shoto's team had to go and get them, leaving Izuku's team alone. Very crafty, Midoriya-kun. Ochako said. No, my children. Mei cried out in regret as she saw the jetpack take off. But the children of yours were able to shine in front of the whole world, Izuku told the female inventor with a smile. The footage of nearly everyone in the stadium chasing after the jetpack was actually broadcast around the world. He believes millions of people have seen Mei's logo on the jetpack. It must be some faker's plan, Katsuki said irritably. And he tried hard not to explode the 10 million point headband in his hand. Not after he risked flying after the fucking jetpack out of the field, alright? Next target. You half-colored bastard. Bakugo, I'll take that headband, Shoto said as his team ran towards Katsuki's team. Let's try it. Look, you two-colored head. The latest owner of 10 million points announced as he tied a cloth to his head. First, we need to get rid of the clutter, Shoto said softly, and he created an icicle that stabbed into the ground, channeling his power to freeze the nearby team and create a wall of ice blocking Katsu's team's escape. I'll give it to you too. This is terrible, Mina cried. Damn it, this isn't manly, Drew moaned as well. What are you afraid of? This ice is so lame, I can easily explode it, Katsuki declared. Ida, are you fast enough to take us to grab the headband? Shoto asked the person in front of him. I have a secret move that greatly increases my speed, but it will only be 10 seconds. After that, I will hardly be able to run, Tenure replied to his team leader. Along with sharing your own thoughts, we have to use it while we don't have much time left so as not to be taken back. I think so, Shoto nodded. Before entrusting the task to someone else, Tokoyami, you must protect Zero's tape. At the same time, try to grab the headband if I miss it. No problem. The owner of the Black Crow nodded along with his alter ego Shadow. Kaminari, if I tell you to, then you'll let out all your electricity. But won't you guys be in trouble? Denki asked worriedly. At least Bakugo's team will lose their mobility and not be able to retake the points. Shoto reasoned. Okay, good, remember, we can't fail, Shoto announced. After discarding your own points, Izuku's team wandered around the field and easily snatched the other team's headbands because everyone was too focused on the team with 10 million points, giving them a chance to move around to collect points. Until the final minute of the competition had passed, Izuku's team was able to collect hundreds of points. So it's time to show our cards, Izuku said. In the next second, a headband with 10 million points appeared on his head. Momo did the same. Before, she took both headbands and tied them to her forehead for the people counting the votes to see. We have to do this because if one or the other is not counted or both are not counted as votes, they would still have more than 700 points to win. The time is almost up. Who will get 10 million points? Team Todoroki will be able to protect it. Or will Bakugo's team steal it back? We'll find out soon. Hey, what is this? Why are there 10 million points for two teams? No, where did the 20 million points come from? President Mike's voice stopped every movement on the field. Their eyes widened in shock. 20 million points belong to Team Ieyasu. How is it? President Mike asked on air. Everyone is still confused. I know. Midoriya's ability is to duplicate objects, and Ieyasu can create objects. Therefore, no matter whose work it is, their team also had 20 million points in their possession at all times. Eraserhead explained, is this possible too? President Mike shrieked. Sure. Once again, no flashy display of power is required to be successful. It's just like Midoriya did in the first round. Why waste effort when there is an easier way? Eraserhead explained. Before concluding, oh yes, time is up. Before the President Mike made the official announcement, time's up. Okay, who will be the 4 teams that have qualified for the next round? The crowd cheered, many of them impressed by the glamorous 10 million point battle. At the same time, I was both admired and surprised by the method used by the team that was the former owner of the first $1 million score. Now all the contestants were on the ground, listening to what they already knew. First place definitely belongs to the Midoriya team with over 20 million points. Everyone on this team breathed a sigh of relief that their points were not erased. Second place, by working hard in the battle, it fell to Todoroki's team, aside from Denki, who acted a bit silly. The rest of the people didn't show much. Third place also works equally hard, but you have to try harder, Team Bakugo. Everyone on this team had a happy expression, except for Katsuki, who was angry as if he was going to kill someone. And finally, hey, this is another dark horse, Team ♯. The members of this team all had expressions of confusion and puzzlement, except for the team leader, who was sneering. Izuku looked at the last team with various thoughts. He actively avoids this team. Because of the quirk that the owner of the purple hair displayed, it was doubtful that the other party would have any type of control power. And because I don't know the conditions, so he didn't venture closer. All you can do is look and analyze the possibilities. Is that hypnosis? It seems like you have to use your mouth. Maybe the trigger is speech. If it prevents them from speaking or blocks their hearing, then they might be able to resist. He expressed his thoughts after gathering the information he had gained throughout the competition. If his hypothesis was correct, it was both frightening and amazing. Who likes to be controlled by others? At the same time, controlling others is the desire of many people. With this kind of power, it could end a battle before it even started. And that's a concern when the third round is a one-on-one fight. Going into battle with little information like this has a very high chance of being attacked. As for other people, he wasn't too worried. Because it is a physical quirk, you can clearly see the work. I'll have to ask Ojiro and Mashiro more during the break. Izuku planned to learn more about this common student, and considering that his room was repulsed by other students, asking general branches probably won't yield anything. What are you mumbling again? Midoriya-kun, Ochako asked with a worried expression on her face. Oh, sorry, I just had something to think about. Izuku closed the notebook and made it disappear along with the pen. Thinking about a new baby. May said it with a smile on her face, causing the rest of the girls to be shocked. He shook his head. No, don't say such misleading things outside. Midoriya, Uraraka, Hatsum, let's go eat, Momo offered, gesturing towards the contestants lining up towards the exit. All right. Izuku and Ochako nodded in unison. I would like to leave because I have to prepare the children. I'll give it to you along with the competition. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said. Let's go eat first, 𝗧𝗵𝗲. 𝐒𝐿 broke the mechanical girl who was walking away. No need, I have a dietary supplement bar, 𝗵𝗲 said and immediately walked away. Troublesome inventor, 𝗧𝗑 complained. You seem really close, Momo asked. Ochako acted intently, listening. When I went to get my dress repaired, I saw crazy things like that, but she's a true genius. What she created must be considered creative, 𝗧𝗑 replied, praising himself. The two girls nodded and braced themselves, thinking they might have to fight that girl in the next round. As he walked out of the field, 𝗧𝗑 separated from his group of friends to go to the bathroom, and as soon as he was finished, he left using the nearest exit, but when he reached the corner, he had to stop. After hearing two familiar voices talking, Todoroki and Baka. What do you want to talk about? A half-colored head, Katsuki asked angrily. You made me suffer and almost broke my promise, Shoto said, looking at his left arm. What promise? Katsuki still didn't understand and was getting more and more irritated with the time he was wasting. My father, Endeavor. I did everything to be better than All Might, but it wasn't enough. Shoto began to tell his story, until finally he realized that he couldn't do it by himself, so he planned. If you're going to tell me about your father, then just shut up. It's a waste of my time. Katsuki shouted at the person in front of him. You know marriage is a quirk, Shoto asked with a calm face but didn't wait for an answer and continued immediately. It is a marriage between people with a quirk to create an heir with a powerful quirk. In my case, father chose mother because her quirk could strengthen his quirk. Not out of love and seeing me as just a tool to fulfill your own dreams. Young Todoroki touched the scar on the left side of his face. My dear mother used to say that my left side was so disgusting that she threw boiling water in my face. That's why I vowed not to use that old man's quirk to become the #1 hero. Katsuki was silent for a moment before speaking. You stupid bastard. His face turned extremely angry as he wasted his time listening to the nonsense of a bastard who only used half his power, but wanted to be #1. Are you looking down on me? Do you think you can beat me and become the #1 hero with your half-assed power? Listen, and remember in your head that I will be the #1 hero. If you are not willing to use your full power, then withdraw. I'm not happy to win against someone like you. With that, Katsuki prepared to walk away but was stopped by Shoto's voice. You're just like my father, Shoto said in a calm voice. It gives me more reason to beat you. Shit, I'm not your father. Katsuki said that and continued walking. At another angle. So Todoroki has both fire and ice, thought the green-haired teen, who had been eavesdropping on other people's conversation. He wasn't sure how he should feel about the other person, whether it's pity and sympathy for the past that the person has encountered or being annoyed with people who want to be heroes but limit their own ability. It won't be a problem if it's a competition between heroes, but when there are people who need help, what? If the other party didn't use their own fire, it would probably lead to people's deaths in the end. After the sports event, I have to go talk to him or I have to let the teacher know. 𝗧𝗑 thought to himself that he wasn't going to let this go quiet. As 𝗧𝗑 was walking in the other direction, he was greeted. Midoriya. Yes, Todoroki. It turned out to be the person he had eavesdropped on calling. How much did you hear? Shoto asked. Guess that's all, 𝗧𝗑 replied. Good. The bi-colored-haired teen nodded. So I don't have to say it again, so let me ask you something. What do you want to ask? 𝗧𝗑 said. The lecture between them suddenly became tense. Are you All Might's secret child? 𝗧𝗑 made an idiotic sound with a wry expression on his face. After the break, there was a timeout activity for everyone to relax before the main event, which was a one-on-one battle, with many of the finalists choosing not to join in the fun because they had to prepare for their own competition. The opponent had been announced earlier, but it wasn't with 𝗧𝗑, as he had said as a student representative that everyone should enjoy the event, so he went down to join in the action. Whether it be the giant ball rolling competition, finding things according to the words given, fencing with marshmallows, climbing cliffs, and capturing flags. When the intermission event ended, it was time for the main event that everyone had been waiting for. Be it ordinary people, heroes, or even villains, they all look forward to future hero battles. This is the moment you all have been waiting for in a one-on-one fight. Present Mike shouted on air, followed by cheers from all over the stands. The first match is a very interesting match. Ashido Mina from the hero course versus Shinzo Hitoshi from the normal course. The announcer repeated the names of the first pair once again and explained the simple rules as the two namesakes walked into the arena. And it can begin. After the voice of the pro hero who used the voice died, Na ran towards her opponent but soon stopped, much to the bewilderment of the onlookers. What happened? Why is Ashido still standing still? Present Mike asked, not understanding. On the seat side of Rume, even though he didn't show anything outstanding in the last round, now he looks really scary. What exactly is Shinso's quirk? No, I warned you, Ashido. Meshirao roared. What is this? How could he do that? Minoru said it in shock, while the rest were equally shocked. Mind control. 𝗧𝗑's answer made those who heard it tremble in fear. What? Many people cried out. Why would such a crook like that go to a normal branch? Minoru asked, and some of them nodded along. It's no use against robots, you idiot, Katsuki said angrily. Yes, Baka is right, because robots are machines. They cannot be controlled as they do not have hearts or minds. He does not have enough points to be in the hero course, Izuku explained further. So when he said he would go to war with us for a seat in the hero course, he wasn't joking. Rikido recalled the purple-haired boy from the general course's announcement with a shiver. It's not as scary as I thought from the information I've gathered. He needs to have a conversation before he can control the target. If he doesn't answer, there shouldn't be a problem, or he needs to deal with it before he can speak. The only thing I have to worry about is accidentally retaliating against him, Izuku reassured his friend. However, they could only watch as their classmate walked off the field without doing anything. It couldn't be helped that if she just followed her friend's advice, she would probably win. ♯advances to the next round. The second pair was a walker who was defeated by Ibara, a girl from Class B. The teen who unleashed the electricity probably didn't expect that the electricity wouldn't be able to penetrate the vine's defenses before being hit. Unable to survive, the third match was between Shoto and Tetsu from Class B, which ended quickly. Even Tetsu's body was made of steel, unable to resist the huge glacier high above the stands. That's a bit too much, Izuku thought as he looked at the glacier a few inches in front of him. The fourth match is Ochako and Yuka's battle, where Ochako is able to dodge the beam and reach the other before sending the beam shooter flying in the sky, and the latter soon gives up after trying to make a move. Hopeless in midair fifth couple, Izuku couldn't help but smile at Mei and Tenya's battle. Mei used her many tools to defeat 𝗫𝗫𝗄's younger brother. Tenya might be fast on the ground, but he is unable to do anything if his opponent was in the sky, at least not in the open. Tenya could only run around the field dodging rubber bullets before being caught in a net, and the bubbles quickly hardened into cement. At least she didn't advertise her child during the fight according to our instructions, Izuku thought after watching Mei start introducing the equipment she used. The sixth pair, Izuku felt a little sympathy when he saw Momo lose to 𝗵𝗃𝐻, someone who was also able to create objects. Momo seems to be building much more slowly than him, as well as fixing the initial situation that didn't work well. Maybe he can give some advice later. In the seventh match, Ijiro and Hanta initially used the tape to gain an advantage and nearly won by dragging their opponent out of the ring until Ijiro regained his footing and ripped the tape. He tied himself up and grabbed the remaining part of the tape to pull the owner of the tape towards him. He ran in and punched him without stopping until the user of the tape gave up. Next, it's our round. Izuku watched the battle end on the TV in his room. He got up and prepared to walk out. I never thought I'd be able to fight Baka this quickly. The last match of the first round. The boy with endless anger from the hero course, Bakugo Katsuki, battles the cunning prince of the hero course, Midoriya Izuku. The two young men walked up to face each other on the stage as President Mike announced. Looks like I got my revenge sooner than I thought, Deku. Katsuki smiled ruefully. I wouldn't say that, Baka, Izuku shot back with a sneer. And you can start. Die, Katsuki shouted as he threw a sweat bomb. Izuku avoided it without any problem. Katsuki roars and charges towards his opponent with the momentum from the explosion, and he swings his right arm out when he's close enough. However, not only Izuku was within Katsuki's attack range, but Katsuki himself was within Izuku's attack range as well. It was Izuku's sparkling foot that crashed into Katsuki's face first with enough force to send the person hit to the ground. But Katsuki quickly got up and pointed his right palm. Along with shooting an explosion at the target, Izuku saw it and swung his arm to create wind to block the explosion midway. A curtain of smoke from the explosion spread across the area. The owner of the bomb looked around the field before ducking to dodge the kick that swept across what should have been his torso and using the grenade to push himself away to avoid the heel. Feet that fell from the sky. Izuku rushed after him without giving the bomber a chance to catch his breath. But Katsuki manages to escape once again before using the grenade to fly into the sky above Izuku's head, turning both hands in opposite directions to the ground and dotting fire to drop like a shooting star. Izuku jumped in time to dodge and thought in shock at the other's greatly increased speed, so he used gravity to increase his speed. Suddenly, his eyes widened when he saw Katsuki use a grenade to follow him almost immediately. The owner of the green hair hurriedly raised his arms to block the explosion that struck him before being thrown almost to the edge of the arena. Izuku quickly recovers and begins analyzing the situation, while Katsuki fires a barrage of grenades, giving his opponent no time to think and pushing him out of the zone, putting Izuku on the defensive. I can't help it. Damn, they fight even more fiercely than in training. This is so manly, Ijiro exclaimed. Their fighting instincts are on another level. 𝗵𝗃𝐻 expressed his opinion, which was accepted by everyone. Alright, but Bakugo is amazing. Using his quirk continuously and with such intensity is difficult for Midoriya, Kick said in shock. Midoriya-kun. Katsuki lowered both his hands with a gasp as he stared at his opponent, who was still standing. Deku. The grenade boy roared and pointed his left hand back to shoot himself forward. At the same time, Izuku launched himself off the ground and flew towards the other party as well. Realizing he was within range, Katsuki detonated another blast, spinning in midair to add momentum to his legs before kicking out. Izuku saw this and crouched down and raised his arms to defend the attack. The green boy sagged slightly when the other person's leg collided with his arm, but once he regained his footing, he gathered his strength and pushed the other person away. Katsuki rushed back, but Izuku was faster. A forearm sparkling with electricity collided with the boy's abdomen, exploding, sending him hurtling back the way he came. Katsuki struggled to get up because of the tightness that filled his stomach. Izuku didn't let the opportunity go to waste and rushed after him to finish off the battle. The fang-haired boy's eyes widened in shock as he pointed his palms forward and shot out continuous bursts to prevent them from reaching him. But it was useless as a flash of green light shot through the rain of explosions. Katsuki, upon seeing him, didn't hesitate to shoot a grenade, sending himself flying backwards. He narrowly avoided being kicked, but Izuku bounced off the ground and quickly rushed towards him. Katsuki then raised his right hand and prepared to fire a grenade at the incoming attacker, but realized that it was not enough to stop him. So he turned the palm that was detonating the grenade to the right in order to deflect himself to the left, thus avoiding it. Izuku's hand went again. However, Izuku twisted his body to the left and kicked the ground, following the exploding boy. Seeing that he had no choice, Katsuki fired a large barrage of explosions, continuously stepping back to keep distance. But Izuku ran past the explosions until he reached him and grabbed both of his wrists. Katsuki spreads out. Katsuki quickly responded by slamming his own head into Izuku's, which caused nothing more than his own head to hurt. Izuku grinned before returning the headbutt, making his head hurt. Katsuki waved behind him, looking dazed. The green-haired boy then did something that would make men around the world watch the match and grip their crotch in terror. Katsuki screamed after being kicked through the pieces, and when the kicker released his hand, the egg kicker fell to his knees on the ground, holding his hand between his legs. Izuku raised his foot and slammed his heel into the head of the person who was suffering from the abuse of his beloved's object until his face was buried on the ground and he fell unconscious. Bakugo is broken. Midoriya has qualified. I wasn't blindsided by what Midoriya did, right? Hanta asked. Dude, you're definitely not the only one who saw this. Cruelty has happened, Midoriya, Minoru said in a trembling voice. That must hurt, Kyoka commented. The first pair of the second round began. Shinso Hitoshi fought Shiozaki Ibara. Many viewers expected that the girl from Class B would be controlled and walk off the stage like an alien-themed girl. But what happened on the field was that the vines from the priestess rushed towards her opponent. Almost immediately after the start, the signal ended. The green thorns moved to life and trapped the purple-haired boy in bonds that he struggled to break free from until midnight declared her the winner after Shinso was unable to move for a long time. But even then he received his word. Watch from viewers who were able to make it to the second round. It's like they already know Shinso's weak points. Izuku looked at the seats in Class B who were cheering for their friends and looked back down at the field. You need more than that quirk to be a hero. The second match was a fight between Todoroki Shoto and Uraraka Ochako. Shoto quickly ended it by sending an ice wave that froze the girl in gravity before she could do anything. Izuku had no opinion on this pair. The third pair belonged to Hatsume and Tokoyami 𝗵𝗃 at first. It seemed like a victory for 𝗵𝗃 considering how he was able to knock out a girl from the support course. But he was defeated by a flash blast that caused his shadow stand to shrink. He returns and loses his sight, which gives Mei a chance to counter with a combo from her own artifact, and she ends the fight by shooting a net that traps the boy and emits a beam of light. She repeated this to stop the shadowy duo from emerging and destroying the net, then advertised her creation before walking off the stage, closing out the second round with Midoriya's pair. Izuku and Kirishima, the two Ijiro, ran towards each other with their enhanced bodies. Izuku attacked him in the face, while Ijiro did the same. They continued to punch each other, jump him and leave, exchanging hands and feet showing the audience their bare-handed fighting abilities. The exchange of fists seemed to have no end as neither side was able to deal any serious damage to their partner, so the viewers thought that it would depend on who would run out of energy first. However, he had to change his mind when he saw how the green-haired boy's punches were starting to cause his opponent to be pushed back and the red-haired boy's futile attempts to stand up to his punches. More violence, and the result finally came out when Ijiro was sent off stage. The battle of the semi-finals immediately began, as the pairing of young Todoroki and young Shiozaki ended with another wave of ice, swift and decisive, trapping his opponent in a cold prison of ice. Cool, it's exciting the first time it's shown but becomes boring when it's used more than once. Then, the second pairing of Midoriya and 𝗧𝗵𝗲 caught the attention of viewers once again, as it wasn't every year that we saw students from outside the hero curriculum make it this far. This made them curious to know what the female inventor who had defeated 2 hero students would use against another hero student who seemed almost invincible. To be honest, with all my children, I still can't fight you, Mei said with a lot of equipment on her body. Are you going to give up? Izuku asked. No, at least let me do my best first so that my child can shine, Baby announced with determination. Good, then come in with everything you have. Izuku launched himself directly at Mei but barely dodged her with his mechanical arms. As the mechanical arm was called back, Izuku caught it and pulled it back, causing Mei to shake off the mechanical arm to prevent herself from being pulled along. She then began flying and drew her loaded gun. A rubber bullet came out to begin the strategy she used to take down 𝗔𝗫𝗄𝐻's younger brother. But it wasn't a problem for the green-haired boy. Izuku, who uses reinforcement, doesn't just have more physical power, but his senses had also been raised to match his physical strength, so he could dodge the rain of bullets without any problem. Mei threw the gun away, picked up a flash grenade, and threw it at the ground. Izuku creates a mask to protect him, but he still loses his sight and hearing. Mei took advantage of Izuku's confusion and flew down, grabbing him with her mechanical arms and dragging him towards the edge of the field because maybe this was her only chance. Before long, a voice came from behind, and a pulling force made her unable to continue flying. I'll admit, you almost got me. When Mei looked back, she saw that Izuku was resisting the pull with his eyes closed. He slowly took a step back, causing her to be dragged along with him. But this time, Mei didn't free her mechanical arms. Instead, she pressed the jet full throttle to continue flying, turning into a game of tug-of-war. The halting of the scene lasted only for a moment before Izuku did something that would decide the outcome. He relaxed his strength and caused himself to be dragged. But he used this opportunity to destroy the mechanical arm and then jumped out towards Mei, grabbing her in midair and slamming her to the ground in a straddling position. All right, is there anything else? No, I'd like to give up. Midnight brought down the whip and announced the results. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 surrenders. Midoriya is the winner. Izuku got up first and helped Mei get up as well. Then they shook hands, smiling, and walked out amidst cheers. After this battle, Izuku has a 30-minute break for the audience, which is time to go use the bathroom or get something to eat in preparation for watching the unmissable final battle. 30 minutes had passed, and there was an announcement for the contestants to enter the arena. It was projected onto TV screens throughout the stadium before cutting to them walking up. Come on stage. The two stood facing each other at a considerable distance. It would be dangerous to let Midoriya move first, so be quick and decisive, 𝗀𝗱 thought as he looked at Izuku. Todoroki would definitely open it by sending an ice wave. It wouldn't be a problem to dodge, but Izuku looked back. As soon as the signal sounded, 𝗀𝗱 opened fire by sending a rapid wave of ice towards Izuku. But triggering reinforcement isn't slow either. Izuku raised his right arm and punched out, then added his strength again, causing air pressure to shoot out of his fist. Air cannon. Izuku roared. The ice wave stopped immediately before shattering into pieces and rushing back towards its owner with a howling wind that caused the person who sent the ice wave to raise their arms to shield their faces and create a pillar of ice to push their backs. The entire stadium fell silent, and the audience's jaws dropped to the ground. That was crazy. He has such power. Why didn't you use it earlier? Spectators in the stands commented. Damn it, he just swung his fist, and a gust of wind created it, cried out one spectator. What? Midoriya destroyed the ice like it was nothing. What a brute force. Present Mike spoke out. Okay, Midoriya's value has definitely increased now that he has shown both raw power and brains, one business student said, still stunned. At first, I thought he wouldn't be a destructive force, but that was obviously wrong. With this kind of power, he would truly destroy the competition. No one would be able to resist, another business student commented. Damn it, I didn't think I'd have this stick, so I mustn't have the chance to attack, 𝗀𝗱 thought as he sent a second wave of ice towards his opponent, only for the ice shards and strong wind to be sent back at him. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 let out a cold sigh and sent another wave of ice, but the effect was still the same. Oh my gosh, they fire such large attacks like it's normal. You guys also explode with powerful attacks so often. You guys are too complete. Ijiru questioned. Katsuki, damn it, I can't do this often, Katsuki said, still unable to melt from the arena. If I do it too hard, the muscles might tear. If I use it too often, I'll be exhausted. The quirk is that parts of the body have their limits. As he spoke, Katsuki thought about his own battle and the reason for using support equipment to amplify the explosion. True to you, then this match is an endurance race. Ijiru expressed his own opinion. If both of them continued to unleash powerful attacks like this, whoever reached their limit first would. Lost, I don't know, Katsuki said, annoyed. Part of it came from knowing that his opponent wasn't being true to him. The other part was that he wasn't strong enough to take the other person seriously. And the last part was just his personal nature. But Midoriya was unexpected. "I didn't think there would be a secret move like this," Hanta said, remembering the first lesson in combat practice. "Like All Might," Tsuyu said. "Everyone thought about it but didn't say it. You can do this all day," Todoroki Izuku said. "But I don't want that. So I'll end it now," Shoto said with a stern expression as he sent an ice wave towards Izuku. But this time he didn't stand still. After the ice wave was destroyed, he created a path of ice that shot straight up into the sky. His face was diagonal, and he ran up before jumping down in the position of punching Izuku. Izuku jumped back in time, only to find a wave of ice rushing behind him. "I'm not afraid," Izuku whispered before punching out a blast of wind that shattered the oncoming ice and pushed Shoto back. "While I could do this many more times, you can't seem to take it anymore," Izuku said as he noticed that Shoto was shaking with ice covering part of the right side of his body, even though the other person kept a straight face but couldn't hide it from Izuku. "Don't worry about me. I'll beat you no matter what," Shoto said sternly, glancing towards the audience. Even though Izuku wasn't looking, he knew who he was looking at. "When, without using fire?" Izuku asked. There was a slight change on Shoto's face, but Izuku ignored it and continued. "What will it prove?" "Prove that ice is enough to win this task. That is, I don't need fire to be the #1 hero." Shoto replied coldly and sent a wave of ice towards Izuku. Izuku shook his head tiredly before destroying it like before. "I already told you that you couldn't take it anymore." "Huh, you're pretending to say this, Midoriya, but you've already reached your limit too." "The wind's been stronger these days than last time," Shoto said, and Izuku just smiled when he knew the other person had finally noticed. At this moment, his right arm was trembling with pain. After all, the power of this level of strong air pressure was still too much for his body to bear without any problems, and he did it 6 times in a row. It will definitely have a negative effect on your arm if you continue to do it. It's easy to forget that a quirk is also a part of physical ability. Whether you, or anyone else has a limit to how much quirk they can use, you have the power to balance your own body. With the power of fire and ice, even though they conflict, they support each other, Izuku said, alternating between clenching and opening his right hand before clenching it tightly. "But you didn't use it and said you would be a hero even though you limited your abilities." Shoto gritted his teeth and growled slightly. But Izuku continued. "How would you tell people if you couldn't stop a villain that you could just use fire for, but you didn't and let it cause damage or escape? What kind of hero will you be?" "Shut up," Shoto shouted, cutting off Izuku's words. "You want me to use fire? My father bribed you to say this, right?" Shoto ran in angrily, forgetting that Izuku also had close-range abilities, which caused him to get a hook punch to the stomach and be sent flying. But he got up and delivered. The ice wave returned, only for Izuku to destroy it with his left punch. "True, my right arm may have reached its limit, but my left arm can still do at least 5 more hits. What are you going to do?" "Todoroki, your ice isn't enough," Izuku said. "Shut up," Shoto roared and blasted a huge wave of ice towards Izuku. The stadium fell silent as the enormous ice cubes towered above the roof of the stands. Young Todoroki gasped heavily as the bite of the ice became more intense than before, but his eyes widened when he heard the sound of cracking and saw cracks in the ice. He jumped backwards as a hole in the ice surface exploded. It was the skill of Izuku who continuously punched forward to break the ice, preventing him from being pushed off the stage or frozen before being able to create a path out of the glacier. Seeing this, Shoto shot another small wave of ice, but Izuku dodged it and quickly rushed towards the left side. Startled, Shoto drew out his left hand and burst into flames before he stopped and received Izuku's sculpture in his face, causing him to bounce off instead. As the ice user was about to fall off the stage, he used the ice to support himself and create an ice slide, allowing him to quickly slide towards his opponent from the side, but was rushed into by the green-haired teen. A kick breaks a path through the ice, forcing you to stand on the ground. "He's so fast, how could I forget?" The son of Endeavor was soon shaken from his thoughts when he saw a blur of green light. He didn't hesitate and sent out a pillar of ice to the left because he knew that the other side would come at a weak point, only to find out how fragile his ice was. Izuku's kick easily cut through the ice shield and into Shoto's midsection, sending the ice user's body rolling on the ground several times. The present mic informs the audience. Endeavor took a sharp breath and stared at the battle below, annoyed at his youngest son's bratty rebellion. If you had used fire from the beginning, you wouldn't be in this situation. It wasn't that he didn't know why his son did this. But if his masterpiece wanted to be a hero, he should use everything he had, not just to defeat other heroes but to help people as well. So he only had to accept his fate as the man who would defeat All Might and become the greatest hero. Speaking of All Might, that kid Midoriya's power is very similar to All Might's, although much weaker but still special. Hero number 2 thought, including power, response, speed, and wind from the punch. It was as if the green-headed kid on stage was a miniature version of All Might, maybe a secret child. It would make sense that All Might would suddenly become a teacher, and that would prove his superiority over All Might if only his son would win, but as shown today, his son is still very far from the target. You've had enough of me. If you insist on not using fire, then I'll end this fight, Izuku said as he watched his opponent struggle to get up. Fight instantly. Why? Shoto said, his voice shaking. Why are you trying to make me use that guy's fire? Shoto couldn't help but grit his teeth and think of his own bitter past with the flame and his father, how it had ruined his childhood and taken his mother away from him just because of his father's insane ambition. Why? Because you want to be a hero, right? Izuku replied. Shoto was taken aback, so he continued, I was once like that stupid kid who didn't want to use his powers. Izuku thought back to the day he said he would be a hero without using his quirk because the kids teased him that his quirk was just a copy, had no value in itself, and was not fit to be one. He's a hero, so he hates his quirk and wishes he didn't have it. But thanks to his mother, he has learned that his quirk is more than just a copy of being a hero. It doesn't matter if he has one. What kind of quirk is it? Just using it to help people is enough. So he would say the same things he did when he was a child. Izuku, this power is yours. No matter what anyone says, it is your power. Don't throw it away. Use it to become a hero. That fire is your power. The fire that comes out of your body belongs to none other than yourself. Izuku said this to Shoto, who was shocked. Is it my fire? Shoto whispered, remembering what his mother had said. It's okay, Shoto. You are not bound by blood. It can be anything you want. Shoto remained silent with all the information that came his way. It's my fire, it's mine, not my father's, and I am me, not my father. Suddenly, red flames erupted from the left side of his body, so hot that the spectators in their seats could even feel the heat waves radiating out. Ew, the fire's hot all the way here, Ochako exclaimed. He finally used it, Tenya muttered in surprise, remembering when Shoto said he wouldn't use fire. Unbelievable. Besides ice, his fire is also very powerful and very manly. Ijiru almost shed tears. So what will Midori-chan do now? Tsuyu said it with concern. But what happened? They stopped fighting for a while. Hey Gyro, did you hear them talking? Denki turned and asked the girl with the best ears in the room. Everyone in the room wanted to know as well. I can only say that Midoriya got Todoroki through his problems, Kaio answered as best she could, not wanting to talk about anyone else's personal problems. He helped his opponent. Midoriya, you're such a man. Ijiru growled through tears. Shut your fucking mouth, Katsuki growled. Shit, you did something stupid, Deku. Don't lose. Oh, so you're worried about Midoriya too? Ijiru protested. I told you to shut up, Katsuki hissed. Are you crazy? You came to help your opponent during the match, Shoto said as the ice clinging to his body began to melt from the heat. Yes, I want to be a hero in my own right, and I can be. But if you want to win, you have to go through me first, Izuku said. They all smiled at each other, ignoring the sound of hero number 2 shouting happily. I don't know whether it will be from now on or not. Shoto slammed his foot on the ground and planted ice on the cement base as the flames continued to burn fiercely. Me too, but since you've broken your limits, I might need some help. With that, Izuku created a white glove and put it on his left hand. This was the equipment, support that Mei made, which supported many times the normal bounce power. Izuku then sent energy throughout his body at full power as wind and lightning swept around his body. After holding back to stabilize his power, Shoto sent a large wave of ice at Izuku. Izuku then punched out with his left hand. Although this wave of ice was larger than the previous one, it stopped, shattered into pieces, and flew back to its owner with a strong gust of wind than before. Izuku's performance at a sports event caused Shoto to create a wall of ice behind himself to avoid being blown away and use fire to destroy the ice missiles before they hit him. After the wind calmed down, Shoto saw Izuku running towards him, so he raised his left arm that was engulfed in flames and stretched it out, completely melting the ice around him into steam before raising his glowing palm, which was extremely hot. His face shot out flames that condensed into the shape of a large beam of light. Before the final attack, he muttered, "Thank you, Midoriya." Izuku, on the other hand, cocked his left arm and punched out. What they do today will be talked about for days to come. A cement wall rose between the two, but it was not enough to stop the pressure of the wind and flames. They crashed through the wall like cement was just pieces of paper and collided with each other. The explosion was so violent that some spectators were nearly blown out of their seats by the force of the wind. Many professional heroes had to rise to protect the spectators from the ice and cement fragments that were blown up. No one wanted to believe that this was the power of a child who was not yet 20 years old. The power they possessed was insane. Many professional heroes could only dream of this level of power. Just destruction power isn't all good, but this is quite amazing, Cementos complained from the side of the stage. Present Mike said to his partner while lying on the floor that many of them had fallen off their chairs. When the extremely cold air encounters a sudden burst of heat, it expands, and when combined with the intense wind pressure, we have a recipe for destruction. Eraserhead stated in principle. The huge cloud of smoke after the explosion concealed everything in the arena from outsiders. Everyone was waiting intently for the outcome this time. And soon the smoke began to clear, revealing the area in the middle of the arena, destroyed until there was nothing left of the original structure. The other picture was of 𝗧𝗪 with his left shirt completely torn off, leaning against the ice wall close to the edge of the stage, and Izuku standing with his guard in the shape of a cross just far from the edge of the stage on the other side. Just a little bit. His upper body was bare, and some of his pants were torn off. Present Mike spoke out, followed by the audience's cheers. Izuku lowered his arms slowly. 𝗧𝗪 quickly got to his feet and swung. Both a wave of ice and a flame immediately hit Izuku. Of course, Izuku swept it away with the same air pressure as usual. Izuku clenched his teeth as his arm ached. He had to hurry and end this fight. The green-haired boy formed a gym shirt over his body and ran out. Fire and ice were released in return, but he dodged and continued running without missing a beat. 𝗧𝗪 quickly created a wall of ice in front of himself, but it was meaningless. The wind pressure in the melee destroyed the barriers and hit those hiding behind the walls, flying them off the stage. Todoroki leaves the stage. The cheering sound of the audience echoed throughout the stadium. Izuku looked around with satisfaction, knowing that one of his childhood dreams had been fulfilled today. Before he collapsed from exhaustion, he tried to regain his balance and raised his clenched right hand to the sky like his idols usually do after big battles, then let himself fall, trying to maintain consciousness so as not to expose yourself to the air. Somewhere, teach your successor well, All Might. It seems that our war isn't over easily. Yoichi, the king of villains, sarcastically said that once again he had failed to finish off the one-for-all user before transferring his brother's power to someone else. But it's not just you who have a successor, I have one too. The over 100-year-old man looked into another screen that was showing a video of his apprentice. Izuku stood on the first pedestal, while on the second pedestal stood 𝗧𝗪 with a calm face, and standing on the third pedestal were two people, Ibara, who was holding his hands in prayer. The quiet god stood in contrast to Mei, who looked extremely excited. Now it's time for the medals, Midnight loudly announced. And this year's medal winner is 𝗧𝗪. Hey, that's. Appearing on the roof of the amphitheater with his unique laugh made the crowd even louder and louder than before. All Might, our number one hero. All Might jumped onto the field. I am the one who has come to present the medal, the number one hero said as he stood up tall and with a smile that was as unique as his laugh. He took 2 bronze medals from Midnight and walked up to the third place winner's podium. Congratulations, Miss 𝗧𝗪. All Might put the coin on Mei's neck and hugged her. You have the ability to create things and use them to create opportunities for victory. You will definitely be a potential hero, but I think you would rather be a support equipment maker, so good luck on your chosen path, and keep creating cool things to help the heroes. Thank you, All Might. I will have many more children. If you have time, you can always go to the support department, Mei said excitedly. His eyes sparkled. All Might was a bit taken aback by her words. Make a child, but he laughed it off and thought to himself, such a strange little girl, just like Melissa, who acts excited when it comes to creating inventions. The next person to receive the medal, hug, and praise from All Might was Ibara. You are also very talented with a kind heart, and with such a versatile quirk. I have no doubt that if you continue to try, you will definitely become a good hero in the future, little Shizaki. Thank you, All Might, Ibara said with a shy expression on his face. All Might came down from the pedestal and took the silver medal before walking up to the second rank's podium, where the son of the second rank hero was waiting. Congratulations, young Todoroki. You must have a reason for not using fire. I won't dig, but being a hero requires giving everything you have and going above and beyond to help people. I hope you can get over this problem. You can find it privately. Thank you, All Might. I want to be a hero like you, using only half my power. It was a wrong idea, 𝗧𝗪 said, looking at the ground. Before looking up All Might from now on, I will use all my power to become a hero like you. All Might smiled and hugged the boy in front of him. I'm glad you thought of it. Good luck on your path, young man. And it came down to the last person to receive a medal. You did well today, young Midoriya. All Might handed over the gold medal, followed by a hug. You have shown that in addition to strength, she also possesses a sharp intellect and out-of-the-box thinking, which are essential to a hero's work. Therefore, continue to strive to improve your skills. I have no doubt that in the future, you will be a good hero. After finishing speaking, All Might pulled back and winked knowingly. Izuku immediately knew that by improved skills, All Might meant air pressure punching techniques. Thank you, All Might. He felt so satisfied that he almost floated as if he had been hit by Ochako's quirk. His childhood dream had been fulfilled once again. All Might then turned to address the audience. And here are the 4 winners this year. But please remember that everyone who entered, all competitors, has the opportunity to stand here. As you can see, they compete, push, and develop themselves to reach higher levels to become the next generation of heroes. So let's give them strength. People were filled with excitement as they prepared to say the famous slogan of the UA school. "Everyone speak to me," All Might said as he raised his arm and pointed his index finger in the air. 1, 2 in. Everyone who was influenced by their emotions raised their hands and roared, +Ultra, thank you for your hard work. The viewers and contestants were shocked that All Might didn't say what they thought. It has to be +Ultra, right? All Might. Everyone in the stadium spoke in unison. Ha 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 ha, goodbye everyone. All Might said so and soared into the sky, leaving everyone helpless after the moment was ruined by their own leader. The next day was a school holiday, and UA gave all students 2 days to relax. This was not the case with those who made it to the finals, especially those who performed well. They found themselves greeted in public with praise and encouragement, or even asked for an autograph. Izuku even had to wear a hat and glasses to conceal his identity when he went outside after being surrounded by people. After a long break of 2 days, they had to go back to school, which started the school day with the most favorable weather conditions. Rain. Izuku stood in a train car that was filled with the damp smell of rain, which was understandable because it was raining. "Excuse me, but are you Midoriya from UA's Hero Branch, who took first place in the sports competition that year?" A normal-looking man asked the teenager. Having spoken like that, the person being mentioned became the focus of the entire train's attention. Izuku cursed his own misfortune. He said there was no one to greet him, and he would soon arrive at the station where he had to leave, not expecting that someone would suddenly recognize him. In fact, the people on the train already knew Izuku. He had green hair, green eyes, freckles under his eyes, and was even wearing a UA student uniform. With this kind of personality, it wasn't difficult for people to recognize him just because, being considerate, I didn't think to go in and say hello. But once someone opened it, it was normal for many people to follow and begin to express their own opinion. It was amazing to come out on top in every round. I was shocked that she found a way to win a race like that the first time anyone had done that. The headscarf game was more than expected. I was on the edge of my seat as she blasted away waves of ice with overwhelming power. That last attack took my breath away. Izuku had to admit that he was truly happy that people were interested in him, even though it was too much, but it was indeed unavoidable. Choosing the path of a hero was no different from being a star, sing and become famous overnight. Izuku could only listen and respond as he saw fit before getting off the train. But he didn't even send another wish that he had to thank. After leaving the train station, Izuku walked towards UA under his umbrella. On the way, he met Ochako, who was also holding an umbrella, so he went to say hello. "Good morning, Uraraka-chan." "Good morning to you too." Midoriya-kun. Ochako said it with a cheerful smile on her face. "How is it along the way, Uraraka-chan?" Izuku asked, seeing that his friend was unusually cheerful. "I was so excited. On the train, there were people talking to me. I never thought this day would happen." Ochako said shyly. "It's the same. We'll probably be the center of attention for many days." "That's right. Today, Aizawa-sensei said he would give out internship applications. I'm curious to see who they'll get." "That's right. But who do you want to intern with?" As they walked through the school gates, a loud voice called out from behind, causing them to turn around to look. "Good morning, Midoriya-kun." Uraraka-chan, Tenya, in a raincoat, greets them and runs past. Izuku and Ochako could only watch as their friends ran towards the school building. "Should we hurry?" Ochako turned to Izuku and asked. "I don't think so." Izuku shrugged. So they continued walking as usual while talking about the internship that they had left behind. It turned out that Ochako wanted to intern with a fighting hero because she saw her own weaknesses in the field and wanted to improve. As for Izuku, he will go with the heroes who help him in battle as well. "Hey, Midoriya-kun wants to apprentice with Mirko." "Yes, I am interested in your leg fighting style, but it is a pity that you do not accept apprentices." By the way, Mirko is famous for solo acting, even though she doesn't have any partners or agencies. Yes, it's amazing that she made it into the top 10 alone. It took a while for the two to finally reach the school building. They collected their umbrellas and changed their boots into sneakers, then walked up to the classroom, where they found their classmates having a chat session. "Fun because of sports events, we have become famous. These past 2 days, everywhere I went, people greeted me." Denki blurted out his words. "Yes, there are people looking at me. It made me almost die of embarrassment," Toru said excitedly as the sleeve of his shirt moved around his chest, indicating that the invisible girl was covering her cheek with her hand. "I was told, try to enter next year as well." Nina laughed. "Same for me." "Me too." "Hey, good morning, Midoriya." Uraraka. Ajiro was the first to greet, followed by the rest of the group who were chatting. Before the two of them could reply, the sound of the door opening rang again, catching the attention of everyone in the room. They knew that Izuku and Uraraka were the last ones, so if there was anyone else who would enter this room, it must be. Good morning, sir." The class of students responded to their teacher in unison, with everyone sitting neatly in their seats. It happened too quickly. No more than 5 seconds after the classroom door opened, seeing who had walked in, they hurriedly canceled it. Things you do and return to your own place. 5 seconds. This time, it's better. Eraserhead praised his students as he walked behind the podium in front of the class. That's good. You can take the bandage off now. Master Aizawa 𝐶𝐬 congratulates her homeroom teacher for seeming to be recovering well. Well, Grandma's healing power is amazing, but more importantly, today's hero information class will be a bit special. What? Everyone was shocked and thought there would be a quiz. Hey, don't think too far ahead. Today, you will have to name your own hero. And about the internship, this one is cool. It's very exciting. Before the teacher could finish speaking, some students showed signs of joy in their faces and gestures. Quiet. Eraserhead spoke quietly, activated A's quirk to intimidate the distressed students with red eyes, and continued speaking. Like I said before about the internship request from a professional hero, this is directly related to the results of sports events, but it is not the end. An internship is a way to introduce yourself to the hero community. If they perform satisfactorily, it will be a score on their profile that will help the hero office consider employment opportunities after graduation, if they don't want to do a single show. After explaining, the anti-quirk owner displayed a list of the names of people who had received internship offers. This is the result of what they did at the sports event. The board shows how many requests each person has received. Midoriya Izuku, 4990. Todoroki Shoto, 4123. Bakugo Katsuki, 1230. Kirishima Ijiro, 460. Tokoyami Fumikage, 300. Ida Tenya, 200. It's crazy. Midoriya has almost 5,000. Denki exclaimed. His jaw dropped at the sheer number of Izuku's requests. I know it's number 1, but it's... Rikido was speechless at the number that completely eclipsed the others. Todoroki has over 4,000 requests. They are really too different. Mina shook her head. She didn't have any requests, but it was understandable that she hadn't shown any skill in single combat, so it was strange that she didn't catch the hero's eye. What's amazing is that Bakugo has thousands of requests, even though we lost the first match, Toru commented before shaking from the angry stares from the people behind him. Yes, but he showed his full potential. I was able to compete closely with Midoriya for first place. Most people on the internet said that if he were in a different class from Midoriya and Todoroki, he would probably be in the semifinals. Hanta said, that's true. Shoji found himself agreeing with the opinions of the people on the net, and the others had no objections. Katsuki found himself incredibly annoyed when he saw what people on the net were saying about him. To him, it didn't matter if he came in second or last. If not first, it didn't matter. After letting the students talk, Eraserhead called everyone back to themselves. For those who didn't get one offer, don't worry. The school has prepared departments for you. So, I thought I would have to wait for an internship next year. Those who didn't have any hero interests felt relieved that the school was still helping them. Now let's name a hero, but this duty is given to you. Trapped the sound of the door sliding open Master Midnight. The students were shocked that another teacher had arrived. Myself Midnight smiled and walked over to stand beside Eraserhead with a cart full of small planning boards and some pens. Since Eraserhead is not good at this kind of thing, it is my duty to give you all some advice on hero names. She began to explain, and Eraserhead went to the corner of the room and burrowed into his sleeping bag. The teacher gives you 15 minutes to come up with a name. Then come out and present in front of the class. Think carefully, because the name of a hero is how you will present yourself to the public. It might be her memory forever. After listening to the instructions, every student walked out, took a small board and a confetti bag, and returned to their seats. As 15 minutes passed, each person started to present their own names. Some were good, some needed to be improved, or some needed to come up with new names. 𝐭𝐴𝑗 Killer. Trust him. Izuku could only roll his eyes at the name that came out of the bomber's mouth. Luckily, Midnight Sensei didn't let him pass. He waited for Katsuki to come back and then got out. This is my name. Izuku turned the board over for his classmates to see. This used to be a name I hated, but there is nothing more suitable than this. It's ironic that he would use a nickname that others would mock as his hero's name, but there's no better way to describe him than this. He learns and repeats whatever he's seen or had the same experience as a counterfeiter, so Faker was the most appropriate name for him. After the performance was finished and it was approved, he returned to his seat, and on the way, he secretly saw Katsuki writing a new name on the board. Lord Murder Bummer. What the? Izuku sighed heavily. His old friend seemed really preoccupied with killing, so he decided to lend a helping hand. Mighty Bomb isn't bad, Baka. Shut up, Deku. It was one of the many names they picked up when they were kids, based on who they wanted to be at that time. All Might. Each name that comes out is therefore something like All Might Jr. Mighty Boy, All Man, Mighty Might. Whatever name is used must have the word all or might in the name always. As you wish. It wasn't unusual for Katsuki to not accept help from others. If the other party accepted it, it would be strange. As for the other two people after Izuku, they were able to name their names without any problems, finishing up the hero naming part. In conclusion, there were two people who had problems with their names. That is, Katsuki and Shoto. These two need to use their own names for now. Alright, now that we've finished naming names, I will give you a document that lists the names of the various hero organizations that have sent requests. For those who did not have a request, the school prepared 40 units. Within 2 days, you all go study and choose one organization you want to go to. Eraserhead took over to continue explaining. The internship will last 1 week. All school expenses will be paid, except for food other than the 3 main meals. And that's the end of my lesson. Feel free to act as you please. The two teachers handed out documents to the students and left the room. When the teachers were gone, each of them began to talk. The sound of chatter spread throughout the classroom. I'm going to Gunhead's office. Ochako spoke up and made a fist-pumping motion. Congratulations. It looks like you got the person you wanted. Izuku congratulated his friend. And you? Ochako asked. I don't know, but I'm interested in Hawk and Lady Nagant and then the crust, not counting All Might and 𝗵𝗃. Who didn't accept internships? Izuku had every one of the top 10 professional heroes on request, so he was able to narrow down the scope simply by looking at the first 8 on the list. In fact, the top 10 professional heroes are all equally good choices for gaining experience, combat skills, and basic situational management. But what will be the deciding factor in the selection is their quirk, power, and style. Fight in this case, he could cut out best genies and Edgeshot because their fighting styles were too specialized. While Endeavor would be more useful as a fire user, Orochimaru being a samurai was the same case as fire heroes and Ryukyu, who used dragon forms to fight. Definitely not something he could do. Hawk and Lady Nagant are good options for learning how to use weapons and fight at all ranges, while Crust helps with throwing weapons. I sent that the top 10 pro heroes. Don't tell me they sent you a request. Midoriya-kun. Ochako's eyes widened in shock. He nodded. Awesome. As for me, I'm going to train with 𝗫𝗫𝗄. My brother. Tenya spoke up. With your brother. If anyone could train you best, it would be him. Izuku commented. It's so envious to work with family. Uraraka said. That's right. I've dreamed since I was a child to go on patrol with you. Tenya accepted.